drink a little wine, no one knows us.
He said, Sarah,
Sarah.
that's my name, don't wear it out. It's not intentional
Sarah
to
Boone
fall
needed a
asleep,
lawyer.
I swear.
Not malicious.
But he
I
said,
fell asleep.
Not malicious.
But then I fell asleep. I fell asleep.
Please won't you let
Because
me
it
out?
makes it sound like to me like I'm being accused of something that was not intentional. I'm being accused of it.
Not intentional, no
Right where it is.
malicious.
Right
She
down
just
there.
fell
Yes.
asleep and played, forgot he was in the Bible dead and stuff. Not intentional. Not
can't
an
imagine
accident at
her
all.
sister
It will all make sense when
defenses
she
to an
takes the
aberration.
stand. Oh, Sarah, Sarah.
Now you all think that I had even more input intent to do what I did, which was not intentional.
He said, Sarah, Sarah, that's my name, don't wear it out. It's not intentional to fall asleep, I swear. But he said, Sarah. But he said, Sarah. We said, Sarah, Sarah, Sarah.
Hello everybody, Excited Utterance here. My name's Hella and I missed you all. I missed you all so much. I missed Friday and then I missed Hearsay for Days and I missed Dali's stream. I missed so much stuff because I was away in Sydney with my little girl, but I got to see Stray Kids in concert, which was an experience. And I also got to see Hamilton the musical, which was pretty cool. Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, so I'm all K-popped out and musicaled out. And I heard a rumor that Sarah didn't do so well in court. Say it ain't true. Say it ain't true, Dali.
Hey.
Hey.
Yeah.
No, it's not true. Yeah, stray kids like homeless children. No, they're called stray kids. And yeah, they're a bunch of grown men who look kind of like ladies, but they're really pretty.
Oh, we have that here.
Yeah, but they're really pretty. And there's one of them who has like the most manly voice ever. Yeah. Hello, Loa. Hello, Steph. Hello, Mads. Bye, friends. Nice. I got an Aussie travel ad coming. Hello. Oh, are you? You coming to see me? Me? It's nice of you just for being in chat. Bye, friends. Hi. Rachel B. Hello, Miss Sarah. How are you? Our Sarah wannabe there. Rachel B does Sarah Boone impressions. Okay. You like the song? I'm going to really miss playing the song. I gotta say that playing that song at the beginning of the stream, that really gets me hyped up. So sad. But there is a video of just the song. If you guys missed the song, you can play the song as much as you like on repeat. It's in the playlist, guys. So there is a song, just the video and everything. It's all there. Scott is here. Scott's here and Young's here too. Here somewhere. Where is she? Where is she? Where is she? Oh, can't find her. But Sean. Hello, Sean the sheep. I was in your hometown. It's your ringtone. That is dedication. Packing Sarah's prison suitcase. This is a type of creativity you need in your life. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you. You're very creative too. Yeah. Well, I mean, this is I teach creative techniques. That's what I do. I'm a lecturer in graphic design and creative direction. So I teach it. And in fact, keep that in mind, guys, because it's going to come back up again later. I have a surprise for you all. I have a surprise. Listening to Sarah's swan song. Sarah, beautiful waterfall is here. And E-Man. Yes, E-Man. Hello. Rip Sarah. Look, no spoilers really. Like, I know things didn't go too well for her, but let's not go too far. And Bronze is here too. Yes, chat family starting to all arrive. Hello, everyone. Okay, guys. So here's the deal. I was pretty distracted by my daughter. She didn't really appreciate me watching Trial, right? So here she is, like, all excited for the concert, biggest thing of her young life. She'd been looking forward to it for months, and here's me, like, trying to watch the Trial and chatting to you all, right? Chatting to y'all. And she's like, Mum, enough with this Boone woman. Right? I'm sick of Sarah Boone. I'm so sick of Sarah Boone. You've been talking about Sarah Boone for months. I'm like, darling, you've been talking about Stray Kids. Like, every single thing I ever hear from you has something to do with Felix or Benchen or one of them, right? I'm so tired of it. And she's like, Mom. And I'm like, yeah, okay, fair enough. We're here for this. Right? So I saw some of it, but nowhere near all of it, and I was saving it also so I could watch it with you guys, right? My girlfriend also hates Boone because of me. Really? Is that the reason she hates Boone, or just because she's a murdering murderer? Oh, sorry, hang on, she's not.
No.
They got it wrong. She is Aussie Hella. Your daughter should... Angus Young... Who's Angus Young? I don't even know who that is. All right, lol, you were there at the funeral hell. She's excited for a concert, and you're excited for a verdict. I know, like, this is the problem. This is the issue that we face. So, anyway, Hella, I have a confession. I accidentally cheated. I was watching someone else who was supposed to be talking about something else. Then the verdict came, and they got distracted and played it. Look, I told you guys, and it's cool, Loa. I told you guys, go, if you must go see it, go see it. But I wasn't expecting the verdict to happen. I thought the verdict would happen today.
Yeah.
I'm pissed.
Yeah.
I'm pissed. Like, come on, guys. Can you not talk about it? Like, think about it, like, over the weekend? Like, sleep on it, please?
Seriously.
This is someone's life. Come on, it's someone's life. They just went and had dinner and went, yeah, all right, fine, throw her away. It's a bit of a big decision, please. Come on. Yeah, you called it, Beautiful Waterfall. You called it. All right, let's get into it. The greatest Aussie band to ever exist. 20 minutes. 28. Oh, sorry. 1 hour 20. Yeah, it was 90 minutes. Yeah. Bullshit. What a pile of crap.
They didn't even try to go in the suitcase themselves, did they?
They didn't even... I reckon that it would take more time for them all to try out going in the suitcase. That's how... It would take longer. Yeah. Come on now. This is an important decision. Including supper. I reckon they took longer to have supper.
That was probably part
and
of the
then they were all
deliberation.
just like... They probably just got one of them to just go tick, 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 tick. Who's fastest? Please. Alrighty, let's go. Now, guys, before we start, I'll let you know that there will be a short quiz today. And the person who wins the short quiz is going to be put into a draw with all the people who have won the quiz up until now. And there will be a prize at the end. Right? So, and P.S. by the way, it won't just be a quiz on today's stuff. It will be a general Boone knowledge quiz. Right? So, it's worth sticking around. And I'll give you some hints during the testimony today as to what the prize is going to be. There'll actually be a choice between two prizes for the person who wins it. Okay, so it's worth it. It's worth it, guys. I had a heavy work day today, so I'm ready for some hella laugh tracks. Oh yeah, let's go. Let's go. We're watching Closing Arguments. Oh, I know who AC/DC is. That's not what you said. Oh, Angus as in AC/DC. Oh, yeah, of course I know. My daughter has an AC/DC t-shirt.
This is a box.
Is it?
This
Bold
is
statements
the box
only.
where George Torres was killed.
You should call it a coffin.
That would be better.
It's a small box.
He's a
28
small man.
by 20 by 8 and 7/8
It would be in
inches.
a drawer.
George Torres was zipped up in this box. George Torres took his last panicked breaths in this box.
No, you don't have to love
The
Catch
medical
Story.
examiner explained to us that with each breath George Torres took in, there was less oxygen in this box.
Hey, cat.
George Torres was murdered in this box. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of myself, my trial partner, we thank you for
Trial
your time
partner?
and attention in this most important of trials. We now have the law from the judge in this case. This is what our duty is to follow.
Duty.
And let's have a discussion regarding that law that we've just been read and given.
I believe you have my stapler.
First section of note you're going to come to is called Introduction to Homicide. But
Ooh,
this
101.
being a legal document
Introduction to
written by a bunch of
homicide.
lawyers who you've seen for
She
the
needed
last
that.
2 weeks arguing with each other, pay careful attention to ands and ors. Remember, if an and is somewhere, we're going to need both things or all the things, and if an or is there, then only one of those things we're going to need. So as we start out here on Introduction to Homicide, we come to the first
Introduction to homicide.
section on justifiable homicide. And it reads, killing of a human being is justifiable homicide. And
Is he saying
lawful,
how to do it?
if necessarily done while resisting an attempt to murder,
Introduction.
commit a
Like,
felony upon
homicide
the
for
defendant,
dummies.
or commit a felony in any dwelling house in which the defendant was at the time. Ladies and gentlemen, this section is completely inapplicable. It's inapplicable because George Torres was zipped up in that suitcase. He couldn't commit or attempt to commit a murder on anybody. He couldn't even scratch his own head
Step one.
while he was
Procure
in
tiny man.
that suitcase. Next, we turn to excusable homicide.
Step two.
Here we have several paragraphs. And it
Step
reads,
three,
the killing of
profit.
a human being is excusable and therefore lawful under any one of the following 3 circumstances. When the killing is committed by accident and in misfortune,
My
doing
bad.
any lawful act by lawful means, usual, ordinary caution, and without any unlawful intent. Well, the problem in this circumstance with the defendant is that she took the law into her own hands.
And suitcase.
Her testimony was that when George Torres was in here, he was laughing and giggling and they were joking. And then he started to complain that he couldn't breathe. And that's when she said that she wanted him to stay in there so he could feel uncomfortable. So he could feel her grievances. Ladies and gentlemen, that is not lawful. That is not the use of ordinary caution. And that is not applicable in this circumstance. Second, when the killing occurs by accident or misfortune in the heat of passion upon any sudden and sufficient provocation. George Torres couldn't provoke anything from his circumstance. George Torres was confined to this box. Next, when the killing is committed by accident and misfortune resulting from sudden combat, dangerous weapon is not used, the killing is not done in a cruel and unusual manner. This fails on 2 counts. There was no sudden combat. In her words, this was laughing and joking and we're all having fun, but she decides that it's going to get a little extra real for George Torres. And it fails on the 2nd count because George Torres was killed in a cruel and unusual manner. Next, we turn to our main charge, second degree. The law informs us that to prove the crime of second degree murder, the state must prove the following three elements beyond a reasonable doubt. I think it's important to stop right here. This sentence right here is telling us
It is lucky for him.
what has to be proven in order for the crime of second degree murder to be, for the defendant to be found guilty in this case. We've been hearing all kinds of facts for almost 2 weeks now of trial. But these are the three facts that had to have been met by the reasonable doubt standard in order to be found guilty. Ladies and gentlemen,
Oh my god, the blue suitcases I saw all weekend. And the suitcases all lined up on, like, the conveyor belts. I was just, like, having flashbacks. I was like, geez, I wonder how many, like, manlets they could fit in that one. That's a huge suitcase. Hey, that one's actually small, and it looks a lot like the suitcase. I wonder whether or not it could have been actually that size. I wonder whether manlet could fit in there.
Yeah, is Jorge in there?
Yeah, and actually that one looks like it's got something moving inside it. And I would, like, sometimes I would speak out loud, and my daughter would be like, stop it. Stop with the Boone thing, right? And I'm like, I'm sorry, darling. I've just got suitcases on my mind.
submit to you that the state has proven second degree murder beyond all doubt.
Beautiful.
And the proof of that guilt is overwhelming. But I will cite for each element just one fact that conclusively proves each of those elements beyond all doubt. As to the first fact, that George Torres is dead, well, we have stipulation, amongst other things.
Okay, this is interesting. So he's going
As to the
through
second fact, the death was
the
caused
elements.
by Sarah Boone. Sarah Boone, in her own words, from the time that this case began on February 23rd, 2020, to when she took the witness stand a few days ago, was consistent about one statement. She zipped him up. She didn't zip him out. She zipped him up in the suitcase, and she refused to zip him out. 3, there was an unlawful killing of George Torres by an act imminently dangerous to another in demonstrating a depraved mind without regard for human life. The law goes on to define for us what a depraved mind is, and also what an act is. It's going to tell us that an act includes any series of related actions arising from and performed pursuant to a single design or purpose. An act is imminently dangerous to another in demonstrating a depraved mind if it is an act or a series of acts that, 1, a person of ordinary judgment would know is reasonably certain to kill or do serious bodily harm to another, and is done from ill will, hatred, spite, or an evil intent, and is of such a nature that the act itself displays a difference in human life.
See, this
Ladies
was
and
the
gentlemen,
part. Okay.
Her conduct fits every
No, see, this is the part that I had queries about right from the beginning. Whether or not she knew that it was likely to cause death or serious bodily harm, right? Whether she knew. And that's when I thought it may have been manslaughter, right? So it did cause it, but whether she knew. So can we just go back 10 seconds and
one of those
listen?
such a nature, the act itself displays.
So it says there, an ordinary person of judgment would know it is reasonably certain to kill or do seriously bodily injury to another. A person of ordinary judgment would know is reasonably certain to kill. See, and that's been my question all along. And especially in... I know you can't use her being that drunk as a defense, but I don't think you need that, because my thinking all along has been that he was in a canvas suitcase, right? And he was talking and stuff. I know he said, "I can't breathe." That's it, though. I think that's the clincher. I think that's probably what the jury thought. Because he said, "I can't breathe," she should have reasonably known that it was likely to cause him death or serious harm. A lot of people have said along the way, though, that you wouldn't reasonably think that he would die from just being in a suitcase.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, both Dali and I have been from the beginning. True?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what you guys said. Yeah, Liz Larson, George said, "I can't breathe," and she said, "That's on you." That's, I think, probably where the jury took that. So, yeah. And it was more the depraved mind part that Cook took it. Yeah. And I think in the end, after hearing everything,
The difference in human life. Ladies and gentlemen, her conduct fits every one of those things. And if there was a scintilla of doubt that this was not the action of the
scintilla.
mind, I point to you.
Hey, Outline.
10, 62, states 17. Mr. J, may you publish states 17?
An iota. That's a good word, too. Where's Nem here? Where's Nem? Hey, how's it going? Oh, the video. Oh, no.
Hello.
For everything you've done to me.
Shallow.
For everything you've done to me.
Shallow.
Fuck you.
Shallow.
Fuck you.
Shallow.
Stupid.
Shallow.
That's my name. Don't wear it out.
I can't fucking breathe, babe. Jersey.
Yeah, that's when you do me, shook me.
Shallow.
David never clips me.
Oh, God.
You've always been his favorite. Now what? Oh no.
Owens has a feet.
Okay, shut up. Mistrial. Your Honor, I motion for a mistrial. What's happening? Oh, spicy. Did those people just interject?
Yeah, Owens is talking to the judge about that.
Oh, okay.
And then
Sarah not happy.
You may continue.
The mum got upset. Had she never seen that? I
Shallow.
wonder.
that's so, yeah, that is discussed.
Shallow. Sarah, I can't breathe, babe.
That's on you.
Sarah, I can't breathe.
It's on you.
Shallow.
Sarah.
Real ransom. Now you want to get video for it extra. Here they got this.
Shallow.
Real ransom.
Shallow. Sarah, I can't breathe, babe.
Oh. That's what I feel like when you drink on me.
Sarah.
Fuck you.
Fucking breathe, Sarah.
Yeah. You should probably shut the fuck up.
Ladies and gentlemen, that exhibit removes any scintilla of doubt about the
No, I
gravity
said
of
scintilla
the defendant's
again.
actions. Well, we know from the evidence that this was not the first time she had considered killing George Torres. We know from the evidence that on January 13, 2020, approximately 1 month prior to George Torres' murder, the defendant had a text message conversation. Please do something with yourself, Sarah. God bless you. Bless you and all of you too. I'll get rid of him. Then I'll be better. Torres. But ladies and gentlemen, in this case, the law actually specifically tells us that the intent to cause death is not necessary. In order to convict of second-degree murder, it is not necessary for the state to prove the defendant had an intent to cause death.
Okay. Yeah, that's first degree.
Next, we turn.
What do you mean by France?
I'm going to bypass the lesser
you know about
included
this, Dali?
offenses because though she is guilty of those offenses as well, the law instructs us that she is to be convicted of for the highest offense in which the evidence supports, which is second-degree murder in this case. So turning our attention towards voluntary intoxication. If there was any question about the fact that Sarah imbibed alcohol on the night that George Torres was murdered, and that maybe somehow that would excuse the conduct or be some type of defense for the conduct. Well, this tells us that that's not the case. Voluntary intoxication resulting from the use of alcohol is not a defense to a crime. Evidence of a defendant's voluntary intoxication may not be taken into consideration to show that she lacked the specific intent to commit any crime. A person is voluntarily intoxicated if he or she knowingly consumed a substance that he or she knew or should have known could cause intoxication. Voluntary intoxication is not a defense to second-degree murder, manslaughter, or culpable negligence. Ladies and gentlemen, there's ample evidence of the defendant's intoxication from watching her on the public surveillance, buying the bottles of wine with George Torres, to her admissions to drinking, to her voice that we heard
That's
on the
awesome.
video
Happy
while she was
anniversary.
torturing George Torres.
Happy anniversary to
Next,
Amy
we come to
Warrior.
offenses.
10 months. Thank you.
First, we come to the justifiable use of deadly force. It tells us it is a defense to the crimes of second-degree murder, manslaughter, and culpable negligence if the actions of Sarah Boone were justifiable use or threatened use of deadly force. Sarah Boone does not have the burden of proving she was justified in using deadly force. Instead, for you to find Sarah Boone guilty, the state must prove beyond a reasonable doubt Sarah Boone was not justified in using deadly force. The law on the justifiable use of deadly force is as follows. Sarah Boone was justified in using deadly force if she reasonably believed that such force or threat of force was necessary to prevent the imminent death or great bodily harm to herself. Sarah Boone had no duty to retreat. Ladies and gentlemen, in a few moments, Mr. Owens will rise, and he's going to show you
What?
this.
What? What? They're his posters.
Yeah, well,
this-
Owens left
Don't
him
touch
out.
my posters, man.
Owens messed up and left him out.
This,
He can't say what he's gonna say.
and he's going to talk, and
Object,
this as well,
dude.
about the list of grievances that Sarah Boone had for George Torres.
Don't touch my posters, man.
He's going to talk to you about curtain rods,
Mistrial. You
gonna talk
can't
to you
say
about
what I'm
black
gonna
eyes?
say. You don't know what I'm gonna say.
he's going to talk to you about what an awful, awful boyfriend George Torres was.
That's so rude. You don't know he's gonna say he's awful.
And ladies and gentlemen,
I don't need to show those.
at the end of all of that, it still will not change the fact that the defendant is not entitled to the justifiable use of deadly force. Because as we continue to read this instruction, it tells us, in deciding whether Sarah Boone was justified in using the use of deadly force, you must consider the circumstances at the time the force or the threat of force was used. Danger
Okay,
need not have been
so
actual.
Here's the deal.
However, to justify
Right, okay. And Steph, thank you for gifting one Excited Utterance membership. I appreciate that so much, and congratulations on your new wrench, by the way. You've been doing excellent work over on Dali's channel and, of course, on Cat Not Williams' channel. Really appreciate that. So congrats, and thank you so much for that gift. You're so generous. Really, what I just wanted to get to here is I know either side can use the exhibits. More so, just the way he's trying to summarize what the defense counsel is going to say in his closing statement, closing argument, sorry, is a bit much. I think. Like, how does he know that Owens is going to say what an awful boyfriend Torres is? That's putting words in his mouth. He can't just put words in his mouth. Why is Owens not objecting to that? He should be objecting to that. So, yeah. I mean, he wasn't wrong, though. It doesn't matter if he was wrong. He can't say what the defense counsel is going to say. It's putting words in his mouth. That's not fair. You know, and hello, Natalie Peroni. Good to have you here. It's irrelevant whether or not he said it. And did he actually say those words, or he's such a terrible boyfriend? I doubt it. I doubt he said those exact words. So it's not an objectionable issue, is it? I think it is. I think it is. To state what the defense is going to say, I think it is. Did Sal see my clip from today?
I loved it.
I think it is. Yeah. Okay. So.
Do you want a link, David?
Yeah, David, do you want to come in? You're more than welcome. All right, let's keep going.
the use of deadly force, the appearance of imminent danger must have been so real that Sarah Boone actually believed that deadly force was necessary. Moreover, to justify the use of deadly force, and this is important, a reasonably cautious and prudent person under the same circumstances would have believed the use of deadly force was necessary. Ladies and gentlemen, no reasonably prudent and cautious person would believe that a man who could barely fit into this box, who was incapable of movement, who was begging for his life, who was slowly asphyxiating, suffocating with each breath,
Certainly was moving his lips.
would have needed to use deadly force against him. The justifiable use of deadly force utterly fails, utterly crashes like a house of cards. But there's more. However, the use of deadly force is not justified if you find that Sarah Boone used force to initially provoke the threatened use of force against
I'm
herself.
not surprised.
Let's stop there before we consider the next two
At
paragraphs.
least he loves me.
Some of the most critical testimony in this trial is her testimony on the stand. It was a great day. We were doing puzzles and artwork, dancing with the dogs, listening to music. Tag, you're it, hide and go seek time. George gets into the suitcase. She comes and zips him up. They were still laughing about it. We're still laughing after he zipped up in the suitcase. And then that's when George had the temerity to ask, George Torres had the temerity to ask
Temerity.
to be unzipped from the suitcase. And that's when Sarah Boone decided he needed to suffer.
Suffer.
She was the initial aggressor, ladies and gentlemen. She provoked the use of force in this case. In her own words, we were laughing and playing right before he wanted to be let out because he couldn't breathe. Paragraph 1. The threat of force asserted toward the defendant was so great that she reasonably believed that she was in imminent danger of death or great bodily harm and had exhausted every reasonable means to escape the danger other than using deadly force on George Torres.
Hello, the world's end. That's
He
interesting.
couldn't exert anything, ladies and gentlemen. George Torres couldn't even exert his arm out of the suitcase. How on earth could he have exerted a force so great to justify his Judge object? Approach.
He's being a dick.
He's saying bad stuff. I object. Okay, I'm not quite sure what this objection is for. Let me just go back.
To justify his Judge object suitcase. How on earth could he have exerted a force so great to justify his Judge object?
Facts, not in evidence, maybe, or speculation.
Yeah, maybe you're speculating. Maybe you're speculating. Not sure. What do you guys think in chat? But that wasn't, I suppose, that wasn't really the defense's argument. It wasn't about how much force he was putting forward. It was about the words he used.
Yeah.
But I think the judge is going to overrule this because defense can just talk about it in closing, their own closing anyway. So, yeah, this is a bit of a lame objection if that's what it is.
We'll probably
I
skip
don't,
forward.
I don't really want to skip forward. Yeah, overruled. Yeah, there you go.
This is of no help to the defendant. Second paragraph. In good faith, Sarah Boone withdrew from physical contact with George Torres and clearly indicated to George Torres that she wanted to withdraw and stop the use of deadly force, but George Torres continued or resumed the threatened use of deadly force. Ladies and gentlemen, George Torres never got a chance to do anything. George Torres never was able to mount any aggression towards the defendant. Therefore, this paragraph is inapplicable. And the law tells us as well that physical contact, in this case, includes any restraint on George Torres's movements. The law also tells us, again, we find that Sarah Boone, because of prior threats or difficulties with George Torres, had reasonable grounds to believe that she was in danger of great bodily harm, of death or great bodily harm at the hands of George Torres. You may consider this fact in determining whether the actions of Sarah Boone were reasonable. Now, we're going to get the battered spouse syndrome in a moment. But again, I submit to you, this will be the opportunity for the defense to air grievances in regards to George Torres. But again, those grievances will not change the law, and they will not change the fact that the justifiable use of deadly force fails as a defense for the defendant. If you find that at the time of the alleged second-degree murder, manslaughter, culpable negligence, Sarah Boone knew that George Torres had committed an act or acts of violence, you may consider that fact in determining whether Sarah Boone reasonably believed it was necessary
Hey, Bob.
for her to use deadly force. Considering the issue of deadly force, you may take into account the relative physical abilities and capacities of Sarah Boone and George Torres. Now we come to the special instruction on battered spouse.
Mads, it's all a matter of taste.
You have heard evidence that Sarah Boone suffered from battered spouse syndrome. If you
Sarah's
find
hot
Sarah Boone suffered from battered spouse syndrome
to some.
credible, you may consider this evidence to assist you in determining whether, in Sarah Boone's circumstances, would reasonably believe that such force was necessary to defend herself against the imminent use of unlawful force by George Torres. Like other witnesses, you may believe or disbelieve all or any part of the testimony in regards to battered spouse. Ladies and gentlemen, we heard from 3 experts in the areas of battered spouse. In this case, and I think at the outset, it's important to note what battered spouse is and isn't and what the law instructs us here. Battered spouse is not some carte blanche. Battered spouse is not a license to kill. The fact that George Torres, at points, mistreated Sarah Boone, did things that were worthy enough to get him arrested, to get restraining orders placed upon him,
Whoa.
doesn't mean that she walks around with an ace in her pocket when it comes to George Torres. It doesn't mean that because he did these awful bad things, that now through the rest of time, she's a battered spouse and she just has the right to kill him, or to make him suffer, or to punish him, or to make him feel uncomfortable, or decide that he needs to be confined to a box. No.
It's not
What
a
the battered
box.
spouse syndrome
It's a coffin.
instruction does, it talks about the imminency of
Sorry?
I was just saying it's a coffin.
Well, it's a... Yeah, why does he keep calling it a box? Like, it's far more dramatic if it's a suitcase. Don't you think?
Yeah. Unless he's trying not to make it sound kind of comical.
Maybe.
Or not comical, but like... Because it's known as like, the suitcase. And it's
Yeah.
kind of takes away from the gravity of the situation.
Okay, yeah, she put him in a box. Alright. Okay, so kind of like Box Boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
fear. And when we heard about that testimony, we heard about it from
No,
Dr.
David,
Harper,
it's not true. It's not
and we heard
true.
about it from Dr. Brandon for the defense. And some of the testimony was a little difficult to understand at points, but there was one point in Dr. Brandon's testimony that was very critical. Dr. Brandon talked about rule-outs.
Oh, it
He
sounds
talked
mean.
about
Yeah, you're right.
The fact that when emotions
Okay,
and
hey, wait.
emotional reactions are involved,
He should have said Cage. Cage would have been much better. Cage.
But cages aren't airtight.
Neither is that, really. But, like, cage, you can't get out of a cage. And it's like something you'd put a dog into. And
Sure.
he has referred to it as her treating her like him like a dog. So cage. he would have thought long and hard about what to call it, and he came up with box. Like, boxes are just cardboard. Like, really.
Involved, like trauma and trauma-based disorders. Other possibilities have to be ruled out before we can even ascribe those actions to battered spouse syndrome. Other possibilities, according to Dr. Brandon, include alcohol abuse.
Square thing.
Dr. Harper should have listened to Dr. Brandon's testimony because Dr. Brandon completely undercut Dr. Harper's testimony. Dr. Harper relied heavily on the words of the defendant, who was abusing alcohol at the time of these events. And then you heard from the expert for the state, Tanya Warner. And her opinion was much more straightforward. Remember, Dr. Brandon did not render an opinion as to whether or not she suffered from battered spouse. Dr. Warner said affirmatively, yes, I believe she did suffer from battered spouse syndrome. But she also applied what Dr. Brandon was talking about. Other possibilities have to be ruled out as the trigger for a behavior, for an event. So, in Dr. Warner's estimation, the fact that at the time of this incident, they were laughing and joking and carrying on meant that the trigger was not domestic violence or some threat. In the defendant's own words, the trigger was him wanting to get out and her being reminded of the bad things that he had done to her. That's not imminence of fear. That's a reminder of bad things a person has done. And again, even if you were to believe that she was battered spouse triggered at the time of this event, it still does not save the day. Because all the battered spouse trigger law tells us is that it goes to that imminency requirement. It doesn't say there's no imminency requirement. It doesn't say that, well, if you're suffering from battered spouse and you're triggered by battered spouse, then, hey, there's no more imminency requirement, do as you wish. It just gives the ladies and gentlemen of the jury another thing to consider in determining whether or not that threat was imminent. And we know from the evidence, we know from the videos, there was absolutely no threat. And we know there was no threat because George Torres never got out of that box. He was never got out of that box until sometime on the early afternoon of February 24th. Mr. J, can you please publish from stage 21?
Mr. J, please publish from stage 21. Please publish from stage 21. Bring the evidence. Hey, Zach, there's been so many Skintellas today. Skintella. Hit it, Jay. Oh yeah, Justin, we are seething. See?
I'm gonna go to court and I'm gonna tell the judge, listen, my fiance has nothing to do with this. It's all my fault. We were both taken and got out of hand. Isolated situation that has never happened before. I love my fiance. She's a good woman.
Oh, what?
For
They're
me, in
engaged?
her life, she has a 7-year-old son that she loves and cherishes.
A blind Boston Terrier.
She has 2 dogs. One is blind, one is deaf. She goes around and she's driving and sees an animal that's injured. She'll stop in the middle of the street, no matter what kind of traffic it is, just to make sure that that animal doesn't get injured any more than where it has. We both love each other, we both live together. Yes, every relationship has their arguments, but we are not the type of people that you guys are train us to be.
She especially.
Especially her. So please, if you can,
Dismiss.
dismiss this case,
Close.
drop it, She is not the type of person.
Good person.
She's a great person.
Angel.
I know she'd be an angel. She's close to it.
Best thing that has ever happened to you.
Yes, ma'am. I love you to death. And I hate that we're going through this.
Sonnet.
Alright.
What?
Hi.
Did I love you?
Can we get the hearts in chat?
Blue hearts.
God will prevail, and we'll think about this situation. Love you.
Clearly, George Torres is dominating the defendant.
Rawr.
Clearly, George Torres is the one telling the defendant what to do. Clearly, George Torres is the one calling the shots.
I just want to thank Nem for being a member for a month. It's so lovely to have you here, Nem. Martina's Insanity. It's great meeting you and having you around. Angel. Well, Satan was an angel as well. I missed that whole angel thing. And someone else asked, oh, sorry, Casper, why was this My Fiance's Great recording made? Fucked if I know. I don't really know. Like, people are speculating as to why it was made, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, the speculation is that she made him say it as some sort of evidence of him believing that everything was fine in the relationship. I think that's the speculation. Am I right?
Probably.
Yeah. Maybe it was him supposedly saying sorry for things that had gone wrong. I don't know. God knows what.
Yeah.
Maybe it was some game. I don't know. We don't have context for it. So...
You mentioned Steph's memberships, right?
Steph's memberships.
Gifted membership?
Oh, she gifted another one.
2.
Another 2.
Oh, I just want to make sure you...
No, she gifted 1. I've talked about 1, but not the second one.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Steph. That's very sweet of you. So now we're down to 10 memberships away from the next decoration in the Boone apartment, the Boone Elisa. Thank you so much, Steph. That is very sweet of you. Lovely. Appreciate that very much, and I will update the banner. Very sweet. Okay, let's keep going.
At 4748 France Lane. Ladies and gentlemen, are we so sure that George Torres wasn't the person suffering from battered spouse syndrome? Next, we're going to come to the justifiable use of non-deadly force. The language of the arguments are pretty close to what we've already heard in the deadly force instruction, including the key language that it requires a reasonably cautious and prudent person under the same circumstances would have believed that the use of non-deadly force was necessary. Ladies and gentlemen, I submit to you that this was not a case of non-deadly force. George Torres lost his life as a result of these actions. We have heard the testimony of Dr. Sarah Zadovich, who described his cause and manner of death, who described the mechanism of death, how that oxygen dissipated in that suitcase. And when we also look at the imminency, we heard in opening statements by Mr. Owens that, the big threat in this case, the awful threat, was in the magic 9 minutes between the video at 11:12 that she took
9 minutes.
torturing George Torres to her follow-up video at 11:23 after she had moved the suitcase. Mr. J, that you published from States 17, IMG 1063.
Hello. Bring it on! More evidence. Oh my god, David. Sorry, shouldn't be laughing at this.
It was a short video. Well, what's one of the things that we notice by this point? You can hear how loud George's voice is on the 11-12 video. But now,
Dali, I must admonish you for giggling at such a terrible time.
Sorry.
How dare you? It's disgusting and vile.
I'm sorry. Blame David.
We're all going to hell.
Blame David.
It's all David's fault. David. Oh, MLS. He's such a bad influence. Honestly, he taught us to stream. David taught us to stream.
Yes.
Right? Well, I was in Sean's chat briefly the other day when all this was playing, and David was sticking up for Sarah. We were sticking up for Sarah, and there were people who were like, "David, are you trolling?" I was like, "David never trolls. Never. Never." And it's just like, oh God. Like, Dali and David and I, seriously, we are all cut from the same cloth.
Yes.
Yeah.
only 11 minutes later from the time that
No,
started.
he never trolls. Never.
See that the makeshift coffin that he's in has been moved, and his voice now is softer.
Oh yeah, he's very tiny.
The life is draining from George Torres,
It's true.
and it's evident in that video. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is evidence that there was no threat in the magic 9 minutes that was not recorded. There was only George Torres in this box, slowly being killed.
Same, David. David, that's exactly right. So David's saying, to be fair, I was never on Sarah's side. She's a horrible human being. I just question whether or not this was a second-degree murder, which I still don't think it is, and she needed an attorney. Look, I agree with almost everything that you've said there. I don't necessarily think she's a horrible human being. I think that I've seen worse. I've seen worse than her. I think she's got some good in her, actually. But, yeah, same. I just question whether or not it was second-degree murder, and I did think she needed an attorney. And when you stand up for somebody like that, people pigeonhole you. This is why I clipped Andrea Burkhart saying the exact same thing the other day. People pigeonhole you, and they say, oh, well, because you are sticking up for this person in any way whatsoever, therefore you must think that they are completely innocent, and you're 100% on their side, and you are against the victim. You are all of those things, and therefore you are evil. It's like, well, why be so black and white about it? Why do you have to take sides? Why do you have to put someone on a team? No, it's not like that. It's more nuanced than that. You can look at things in different ways. So you can look at it and go, hey, this person may have been overcharged. There may be other aspects to this case than just, oh, she's so evil and she absolutely must be charged with the very highest charge possible. Or perhaps there are parts of it that don't line up with what the state has charged her with. And yes, she did deserve to have a lawyer. She needed a lawyer because a few months ago, there was no way she was getting a fair trial. No way.
Sarah Boone needed a lawyer.
Yeah, Sarah Boone needed a lawyer. No way she was getting a fair trial. And every citizen has the right to a fair trial.
Next, we come to weighing the evidence. This instruction tells us it is up to you to decide what evidence is reliable. You should use your common sense in deciding which is the best evidence and which evidence should not be relied upon in considering your verdict. You may find some of the evidence not reliable or less reliable than other evidence. You should consider how the witness acted as well as what they said. Some things you should consider. Did the witness have an opportunity to see and know the things about which the witness testified? In focusing on the defendant, absolutely. Two people walked through the front door on the evening of February 23rd, 2020 at 4748 France Court. George Torres and Sarah Boone. But only Sarah Boone ever walked out of that front door alive. Did the witness seem to have an accurate memory? This is an emphatic no. And the litany of her intoxication in versions of events is evidence of that. Was the witness honest and straightforward in answering the attorney's questions? I would submit to you she wasn't. 4, did the witness have some interest in how the case should be decided? Clearly. Does the witness's testimony agree with the other testimony and other evidence in the case? And I would say largely no. Because on the issue of whether or not George Torres could have threatened her the way she says that he did, the answer is clearly no, and we know that from the forensic data. We know that from the items itself. Did the witness at some other time make a statement that is inconsistent with the testimony he or she gave in court? In regards to the defendant, it's almost more appropriate to ask about the time she did make a consistent statement. You listen to her version of events on the 911 call, on the body cameras, on her first interviews with law enforcement, and then you hear her in her next interview the next day with Detective Kopsel and Detective Lowen, and more details come out, things change. First, she was never intoxicated, then she was intoxicated. Then there's just the whole fact of she omits the fact of, oh yeah, he was actually trying to attack me. Oh yeah, I was in fear for my life. When she said at every turn, no, it was just a great day. We were having fun. Oh my God, I can't believe this. We were doing good. The only stress we had was about jobs. And now, 4.5 years after the fact, it's time to come up with a new story. But ladies and gentlemen, I submit to you that the truth does not change. The facts do not change. The videos do not change. And on any version of events that the defendant has given, they all add up to the fact that there is absolutely no doubt that she is guilty of murder. I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, do you have any doubt about the defendant's guilt when she described using that baseball bat to hit George Torres's fingers back in the suitcase when he attempted to save his life? Do you have any doubt when she is given how many versions of events in this case? Do you have any doubt after hearing the testimony of her neighbors about the loud crash and arguing that night? Do you have any doubt after hearing the testimony of Dr. Sarah Zadovich? Do you have any doubt after watching the videos of George Torres being murdered and her laughing about it and talking about the fact that he cheated on her? Do you have any doubt after reading the text messages from her phone, after seeing the videos of how she controlled and manipulated George Torres? And if you say, Mr. Cacciatore, I still have a doubt, well, then the law asks you, is that doubt to an element? And is that doubt a mere possible doubt, a speculative, an imaginary, or a forced doubt? I submit to you the idea that she had to do this because she was a battered spouse is an imaginary doubt.
Ooh.
It's a doubt born from the imagination of Sarah Boone. It is not a reasonable doubt. But if you find yourself back in that deliberation room and you are just trying to think of some way in which the defendant is not guilty, just searching, struggling for that way.
Imaginary doubt.
That also is not a reasonable doubt, ladies and gentlemen. That is a forced doubt. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm confident that when
Not
you
a
read the
forced
entirety
doubt.
of those jury instructions and apply the law to the facts that came out in this case, that you are going to come back
It's a good line.
with the only lawful verdict, which is guilty as charged, second-degree murder. Thank you.
Okay, so a couple of things to say on this, and I just wanted to answer some questions first. Back to whether or not she was overcharged. So I just wanted to say that I had doubts that she was doubts about the charges all along until really late in the trial, right? And I think Dali feels the same way. David still thinks that she should have been charged with manslaughter, and she was offered a manslaughter plea deal. And here's why. I actually do think it was an accident, right? Unfortunately, she went along with this silly self-defense argument, right? I don't think it was self-defense at all, right? So this whole thing with him putting his hand out and threatening her and her killing him lawfully in self-defense, I think that's all a load of BS, right? And unfortunately, the battered spouse thing, yeah, it didn't fly, and I think she just pushed it too far. If she had just kept going with the truth, which was, it was an accident that he died. It may have been a nasty thing to do. She may have been in a nasty frame of mind, and you can tell that from the video that she was not being nice to him right then, and it was very unkind of her, but she didn't think he was going to die. If she had kept with that, then I don't think that murder 2 stands up, personally, and I think that's why they offered her the manslaughter plea deal. However, because she pushed it, the state had to go to a lot more effort and pull out a lot of evidence to show that she had the depraved mind. And they did. They did their work. They had to work harder, and they pulled out a lot more evidence, and when I saw all that extra evidence, I was like, okay. Fair enough. Yeah, so that's my point of view. I feel like they actually, who said it was an accident he died? She did. And I actually believe that it was an accident he died. I don't think that she meant for him to die. I really believe she didn't mean for him to die. I think she was being nasty in that moment. I think that she was being reckless in that moment, but I don't think she meant for him to die. I think she went and passed out upstairs, and that was it. but that's completely self-serving. Why? Hella, she clearly intended to cause George harm. That harm resulted in George's death. That is murder too. I don't know. She wanted him to feel bad, but I don't think that she wanted him to die.
Although...
So... But that is
died.
exactly what second is, though.
Yeah.
Why did they offer a manslaughter plea then? Why?
Yeah.
Why? Wanting to die is murder 1. No, I don't think she... No, I didn't think she thought he was going to die. Not just wanting, but I don't think she thought he would. I didn't think that she thought that was going to result in his death.
Courtney Clenny is murder too.
Sorry, I should have worded that differently. Not wanting to. I didn't think she thought it would result in his death. I should clarify that. Not wanting, but I don't think she thought that it would result in his death. I think that was an accident. I think that part was an accident. It was wrong, and I think she was being nasty.
Yeah.
But I think that she really didn't understand the gravity of that moment, that he was actually really in mortal danger at that point. And that's why I think they offered a manslaughter. But then they went and found more evidence, and I do think that the self-defense thing is bullshit. I think that's bullshit. And I understand the problem is he told her he was unable to breathe and not breathing caused death. And I get that. But you heard her in that video, and she was sourced. And that's not a defense, I get that, but she was sourced, and I really think that she just didn't get the gravity of that moment. And she just passed out. She went upstairs and passed out. You think she understood very well? That's cool. And that's cool. And I'm completely open to that as well. And I don't have a problem with her going away for 22 years for it at all, really. Really, I don't. All right, let's keep going.
Members of the jury, it is 4:04. As I promised, we were going to take that afternoon break before the defense proceeds with their closing argument. You're going to leave everything behind. Similar instruction that I've given you before. Please don't conduct any independent investigation.
Let's go forward.
No, you'll want to hear the argument.
Oh, right.
Y'all may be seated. Thank you.
I've got a motion.
Okay, may proceed.
Sarah Boone's entitled to a fair trial. I think that right's been compromised here today. I don't know who scheduled to put the 2 detectives on the front row with the Torres family, the family of the victim. But they had to have known to tell them that the suitcase video, which has been around for 4.5 years, was going to be played during opening statement. And the state attorney's office or the sheriff's department had to advise them, or the victim's advocate had to advise them, that if they couldn't take it in front of a jury that's trying to decide the case, they needed to get out of the courtroom. Now, what happened here today should not ever happen. There should be safeguards in place. There's no room for this after 2 weeks of murder trial for something like that to happen.
Oh, God.
One of the Torres members of the family audibly, during the 2-minute suitcase video, expressed some kind of emotional reaction. I look back, he or she were bent over in agony, physical pain. The physical pain followed the audible announcement. You can't unring that bell. That's their responsibility to ensure that kind of thing doesn't happen, especially when they know they're going to show a video and the family of the victim is on the front row.
Oh, God.
I've never heard of such. I asked for a mistrial.
Response.
I've never heard of such a request. The victim's family has the right to be here. They were advised as to what will be used during closing arguments. I cannot make a decision for the victim's family and the homicide survivors as to whether or not they believe they can handle it.
Oh,
She
no.
clearly, or he, I don't know, couldn't, and I believe the appropriate thing was done. They left the court. But again, to say this is intentional sabotage and all the accusations that continuously get made are unsubstantiated. And it does not warrant a mistrial. You can get warned, and sometimes they misjudge their own emotions. I don't understand what test we are expected to run on homicide survivors. So the motion should be denied.
Motion's denied. Jury's going to be back in about 13 minutes, counsel. So we'll reconvene at that point in time.
Could the state put the suitcase back in the car?
Yeah, can we clean the well from the state's materials, please? Thank you.
Stay put suitcase in the corner.
Yeah, put the suitcase in the corner. Don't put baby in the corner. Okay. Yeah, that was a bit of an excited utterance there by Mr. Owens. Whoa. I heard about him doing something crazy in response to the mother, I think it's the mother, having that outburst, but I didn't know that it was a motion for mistrial. Look, he had to put it on the record. He didn't need to put it on the record with such vigor. Yeah, if you put it on the record, then it is able to be brought up as an appellate issue, I suppose. Wow. Okay.
We are back on the record, 2020 CF 2603, State of Florida versus Sarah Boone. State appearances for the record.
Dave Kensher on behalf of the state. Jay Fuller, State of Florida.
James Owens for Sarah Boone.
Kevin Beck on behalf of Sarah Boone.
Tony Henderson, Sarah Boone.
Ms. Boone is still seated at counsel's table wearing the same clothing from this morning. Are we ready to bring in our jury for the defense closing at this time? State.
His eyebrows are
So I'd like
outrageous.
you to give the audience an instruction, and then if you would instruct the state attorney to instruct whatever family members or friends, George Torres, they may not be in here and may not be able to hear the instruction, but they come in during the trial so that we can try to get some order.
Are there any other members of Mr. Torres's family that may be outside that may be joining us? Okay, all right, so she's left, she's no longer here? Okay, that's what I just asked. Is there anyone outside? Okay. Okay, all right. So members of our gallery, good afternoon. I'm going to please ask you to please contain yourself and not to have any emotional outbursts.
What?
We had a
Did he
minor
just say contain yourself?
Phrasing, sir.
Phrasing. Okay, so if you can't contain yourself like George, then really you're going to need to leave on that little carousel over there. Sorry.
And the person, whoever it was, had a small outburst, then hid next to another family member, and then excused herself during the last during the closing. It seemed to be minor in nature. However, I'm advising everyone that at this time, if you believe that you cannot control yourself or your emotional responses during the defense's closing argument or any rebuttal by the state, I'm going to politely ask you to excuse yourselves at this time.
Leave your baggage behind.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Owens, anything else, sir?
No, sir.
All right, state.
At least you didn't tell him to zip it.
Making their selection.
Okay, thank you. All can be seated. They're making their dinner selections. We'll just give them a couple minutes to do that. Thank you.
Contain yourself like your relative. Sorry, you're not small enough like the manlet.
You can probably skip forward.
Okay.
Maybe.
Been allowed since I started practicing in 1990.
Oh, hang on, no.
Okay.
I don't know if that.
His brother showed up in the Ace Hardware t-shirt.
The helpful place.
Okay.
I don't know if that is allowed by the court or.
Anything?
Been allowed since I started practicing in 1990.
If you want to split up your closing between the two of y'all, that's fine by me.
Well, I intended on doing the closing, but when I finish, Mr. Henderson wants to say something. I may ask him to.
I've never seen it done that way. I've understood the sandwich can be broken. I've never, ever seen a single closing argument split by another attorney.
Why does Henderson want to
It's a
talk?
discretionary issue. I'll leave it up to you, sir, on what you want to do and how you want to present your closing.
What the hell? No. No. Stand up to him, Owens. No.
They want to.
Reasonable. Who would be objecting during rebuttal?
Mr.
You
Owens.
think?
Okay, there you go.
Okay. Beautiful. What you just missed was Owens saying to the judge that that Henderson would like to also talk during the closing argument. So not like sandwich technique, like as in there being a closing argument and then a rebuttal, so two lawyers. And that's not usually the case for a defense because there's usually the state only gets a rebuttal. But actually there'd be two lawyers presenting one closing argument. So Henderson wants to talk at the end, which is like, what the? Why? Why would that happen? Henderson, sit down. You're not helping. They wanted to do a co-closing. Yeah, well, it was Henderson's idea. Too bad he could not fake a Darth Vader voice. Maybe, yeah. It's more than unusual. It's very strange. Wow. Okay. I think Henderson's seeing this as his moment in the spotlight on TV.
State, you recognize our jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense, do you recognize our jury? Thank you. Y'all may be seated. Members of the jury, for one of the last times, if you could, please raise your hands to confirm that you complied with the court's instructions. All hands have been raised. Members of the jury, at this time, the defense is going to proceed with their closing argument, similar to the state's closing argument. These are not evidence. These are just arguments, and I ask you to pay attention to them. Thank you. Mr. Owens, you may proceed, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Y'all know me, I'm James Owens, along with Tony Henderson and the girls. We're all from Milton. I think y'all
The
figured that out,
girls?
that we were from out of town.
Did he just
San
call
Jose
them the
County.
girls?
It's Northwest Florida, close to Pensacola. And my buddy Kevin Beck,
Eek.
he's a longtime friend, he's from New Mexico. The team, the defense team, is here, and we're here to represent Miss Sarah Boone. And we feel confident that we're going to be able to show you why she's not guilty. Okay? And I'm going to take my time. I've got some notes, not the most important notes I'm supposed to in the world.
I don't like
Got some
that.
exhibits that we're going to show you, and then we got a couple of videos at the end. Okay, and we're going to try our best to help you make the right decision.
They are girls. Hot ones at
But yeah,
that.
Milton's a small town.
Objection.
Overruled.
What?
See how small it is. 7 miles away is another small town called Pace. In between that is a Walmart. It's a very small town. We didn't know what to expect coming down here to Orlando. Judge, I'm allowed to.
I'll give you a little bit more for intro, but then we need to get into it.
I'm going to get into it, but I wanted to say, it's a small town, good people. We've been down here 3 weeks. We didn't know what to expect. We've been surprised. From
Objection. Improper argument.
What the hell
Owens,
is
bro.
going on? Why are there 3 objections? What? 3 objections? What? Because he's doing a introduction? You assholes. Why are you throwing him off? Just let him do his argument.
Objections overruled.
all I wanted to say is just since we've been here, we've been treated with respect and
So
hospitality.
what? He's a
And just
David.
we've been-
David, but you're allowed to. It doesn't matter if he's not arguing the facts of the case. He's doing his introduction. You're allowed to do that, right? They're just trying to throw him off. They're pricks.
We appreciate that. Now, I'm going to do some reading, and then I'm going to do some talking. But ultimately, this is about justifiable use of force. That is a legal defense in Florida. We as citizens The law is designed to protect us from defending ourselves, to protect us from potential attack. And you were the only ones, in this case, because Sarah Boone was arrested, that's going to be able to look at it critically and objectively. Objectively. Not like the state attorney.
Objection, improper argument.
Overruled.
Objectively. And the law in Florida gives y'all the power and authority to do that. The state attorney can't make the decision. They can't make the decision. They can try to influence you. And we're going to talk about some of the things they did here in this trial. And some of the things they said.
Objection, can we motion?
Yes.
What? Okay, I have never seen this many objections in a closing argument before now. This is it. In the first friggin' 5 minutes. This is so rude. And, like, they've all been overruled so far. Wow. Yeah, there's definitely bad blood between Owens and Jay. But Owens let him, like, speak. There was one objection the entire time. And generally I know you guys all watch trials. You guys told me, how often do you see, like, multiple objections in closing arguments? Not very often. Right? Not very often. It's considered pretty, like, bad form to just keep objecting in a closing argument. Not triple, no. It's very, very rare, and then only for a real reason, not just because, oh, relevance, you know, immediately when he starts, not giving him any momentum at all to start his argument. Like, he's clearly just setting the scene for, like, who I am and, like, where I come from and why I'm here and that kind of thing. It's rude, Donna, yeah.
They got their side, their position, we got our side. So we're going to talk about that. But and we're going to talk about justifiable use of deadly force and non-deadly force. But either way, however you rule, it still justifies her behavior. And the result is not good. Now, I don't believe there's anybody.
Objection, improper argument.
Overruled.
What the hell? Okay, now, Owens, dude, I know you're so frustrated, but showing it like that in front of the jury, not the best look. Mate.
Come on, camera, move over to the left, like 6 inches.
I feel like at the moment, I can feel his frustration so much. Like, how annoying must it be to have someone interrupt you at the important, crucial time, but then, like, he goes and shows it in front of the jury. He's like that. That's annoying. That's bad.
From considering the evidence in this case, that
maybe it
there
helps.
is no doubt that Sarah Boone is a victim. That Sarah Boone has been traumatized. That Sarah Boone is still traumatized. And the reason for the trauma is George Torres. The reason for the trauma is George Torres. From the positive things about the man that we've seen on video, to the positive things Sarah Boone has testified about, to the violent monster he becomes. And I mean monster, because it was repeatedly. And what happens the next day? And I don't remember. I was drunk. I don't remember. That's the gaslighting. That this young woman, vulnerable woman, with nobody, just starving for love, starving for attention, and seeing the good in the man. And it was good. But every day was on the balance. She measured every day. depending on how it started and then how it ended. And that's the way she had to live her life, day in and day out, day in and day out. Dr. Harper and Dr. Brandon talked about trauma. Dr. Harper spoke of the veterans that she had treated for post-traumatic stress disorder. I don't know if you remember her testimony, but she spoke about some of the veterans that had been in the war in Iraq, you know, and people in war a lot of times get post-traumatic stress. It used to be called shell shock and other things. But people in wartime, or police officers will get post-traumatic stress. And a lot of them come in, the males come in with this bravado, I'm all right. I'm all right. And so that's why Dr. Harper was talking about the veterans. That's what they'll do. But you got to spend time with them. It just can't be one session. And you've got to run post-traumatic stress testing, which tells whether they really have post-traumatic stress. And we all probably have experienced some trauma. All of us have lost some loved ones. And it's awful. You're in shock. You can't believe it. It's disbelief. You don't sleep for days. And eventually, you have to go back to work. You take a week off. Life has to go on. Life has to go on. You go back to work. Kids are in school. You get a little time, right? Time heals, right?
Time heals.
These veterans that come back from a deployment, they get back. They get some semblance of normalcy. They may or may not get some treatment, but time helps. Time heals.
He's comparing Sarah to a soldier.
Just time. Overcoming a divorce, overcoming a death, whatever trauma. Sarah
Killing
Boone
your
had
boyfriend.
No break. No break. Learned helplessness. Just giving up. Just giving up. I can't get out of this situation. They broke up. She go about 2 days.
Yeah, you know who else can get out of a situation?
Accident following. Just learned helplessness. And it's, you know, in the manual. Battered spouse syndrome is not, but what did you hear Dr. Harper say? She suffers from post-traumatic stress. That is a mental disorder. You are actually undergoing the psychological effects of post-traumatic stress. You're not in your right mind. And it's repeating itself. It's repeating itself again and again, day in and day out. And when you look at this law, that's what you have to apply. Someone in Sarah Boone's shoes, when you're deciding whether her conduct was reasonable. Got a bunch of notes. That was something I wanted to read. Where'd that put it? Sarah Boone's long-term exposure to abuse created a state of learned helplessness and diminished her capacity to assess risk, especially in moments of heightened stress. The cyclical nature of this violence, the tension building, the battering, the contrition phases, caused Sarah to be trapped psychologically in that relationship. Due to this clear abuse, Sarah Boone had a reasonable belief of imminent harm under her state of mind. George Torres had a history of violence against Sarah, and as a result, Sarah Boone's actions were the result of fear conditioned by abuse she endured over time. The cumulative effects of long-term abuse, as we saw her behavior on the 2-minute suitcase video, is a trauma response. Sarah Boone acted out of a sense of preservation. While tragic, it was not driven by malice, but a mind ravaged by abuse.
No,
And
not
I'm going to ask you to try to
malicious.
understand. Try to understand.
Try to understand.
Sarah Boone, being emotionally and psychologically broken, whose actions may have been misguided attempts at survival but not murder. Imminent danger, her response reacted to that belief. It's somebody suffering from the long-term psychological effects of domestic violence. Who spent a lot of time? Dr. Brandon, you remember him. He was the first expert on trauma. took some notes. Kevin Beck, you remember, did the direct examination of Dr. Brandon. He was from down in Miami, I think. He talked about the trauma, that you cannot escape from the abuse, so you develop coping skills to protect yourself, knowing that the bad things will happen to me. It changes your behavior, not only your behavior, but your thinking. Your subjective thinking about
Hey, Marshall.
fear and what to do. And if you remember, Dr. Brandon said it's all about that person's perception, okay? A lot of times they will self-medicate with alcohol or drugs. A lot of times they suffer from anxiety. Basically, he said the trauma ends up being terror because you do not know what to expect. You do not know what is going to happen that night. It may be a great night. You may drink, and both of you have a great time. He falls asleep, passes out, you fall asleep, but it may turn, depending on his mood. I don't know if you can tell, she would try to placate him. Dr. Brandon said, when you're trying to evaluate somebody, it takes time to get them to trust you. And the ultimate goal, he said, is to be a behavioral detective. If you're a forensic psychologist, is to be a behavioral detective. And the ultimate goal is to put yourself in the abused person's eyes so you can better understand their world. But ultimately, it's their perception of danger. Their perception of danger is what you have to look at. What a reasonable person would do under their perception of danger. Now, I want to go on. Trauma experts explain how victims' reactions to
I'm not
moments of
sure
stress
about
are
that.
product-
Seeking North Node. I really don't know where those injuries came from, so I'm just not sure about that. I have a problem with the people who are saying, and I'm not saying this is you, by the way, Seeking North Node. I have a problem with the people who say that those injuries of hers were either self-inflicted or made up or something like that. Because they were back from 2019, 2018, etc. I'm sure there's metadata to support that. They look pretty real to me. And
the black guy, maybe not, but the rest of them did.
Well, you can't prove one way or the other whether it was real. I just don't like the speculation that any of it's not real. And especially the leg. I mean, she's got a big giant scar on her leg, and it's nasty.
Yeah,
it's really, really nasty.
She was a drunk and could have done it herself accidentally.
Okay, but it's reaching though, isn't it? I think it's reaching.
I think the abuse was mutual.
Yeah, I'm not saying it wasn't mutual. I'm just saying that the people who are saying that he didn't do anything to her, that those photos are not to do with him. He's like some kind of angel who didn't hurt her. I think that those people are just looking for an excuse to exonerate him from any wrongdoing whatsoever. There's no need to do that, right? We don't know. We absolutely weren't there. We don't know. And to try and put those things onto her and say, no, nothing happened to you. You were making all that up. Those injuries on you didn't come from him. Maybe you did it to yourself. Maybe you did it out there, because you were drunk, you hurt yourself somehow. You're speculating, and
yeah, there's Yeah.
Yeah. I still think his violence, either reacting to her emotional abuse or her physical abuse, he didn't have the coping skills to walk away, leave. That's fine. That was fine. And yeah, but I think when it comes down to it, it comes down to that moment, that night. And I think this argument from the defense about her being a battered spouse and her acting in self-defense is just bullshit.
Yeah.
So if they hadn't gone down this line, I think she would have done a lot better. Yeah. Personally. Yeah.
Of the damaged psyche. Her actions, although tragic, and it was a tragedy, George Torres lost his life in that suitcase. It's a reactionary response to sustained
True,
trauma.
Candace.
It's as if Sarah was acting out of a deeply ingrained fear and helplessness developed over the years. So it's a desperate need for survival, but battered women do things to keep the peace from time to time. And when they feel like they have a small portion of momentary power, they may enjoy that by vocalizing their position to the abuser. Sarah Boone's not perfect. Sarah Boone
No.
argue with him, talk down to him. Some would say was somewhat abusive to him. Sarah's not charged with that. Sarah Boone is not charged with that. And I want to read you something on that subject. Essentially, I don't know where it's at, but I'm going to have to come back to it. But essentially what it said was, eventually,
Oh, good Lord. He's about as organized as Dave in court.
Ah.
God, I hope he's still here. No, he's probably not even here anymore.
the 2-week trial, I got a bunch of notes.
This is Dave! Oh my God! This is
What I wanted to
Dave's
say
trial.
was someone can be mean and angry and hateful and intoxicated and still be abused. They're not mutually exclusive. And mutual abuse exists where one is abusive towards another. And eventually the victim, Sarah Boone, trying to fight back against the abuse, became verbally abusive. While the victim has committed verbal abuse, it is important to remember that they, Sarah Boone, are the victim and have been pulled into an extremely vicious cycle where they are trying to survive. Sarah Boone intentionally left George Torres in the suitcase. What's the act of a battered spouse syndrome woman? She went up to her room, she fell asleep and passed out. These actions are disconnected. Ultimately, she didn't let him out because of her fear, but she knew if he got out in that moment, what he would do. That's real fear, that's real trauma that she was experiencing at that time.
Aww.
Now, I talked to you about force being used, and I think I talked to you about blocking an attack using a physical restraint like the suitcase to block somebody's attack. An example I give, a couple of examples that may or may not apply. Let's say you're in a bar and you've got your buddies and the other guy's got their buddies and they're drinking and it ends up being an argument between two of them, and you realize that these two are fixing to get in it. Well, one of your buddies comes around on the other side and grabs the guy before he's able to strike him, right? So you're committing an offense on this guy, but it's a restraint. It's a restraint where you grab him by the neck and try to get him out. Bar. So yeah, you're committing an act, but it's designed to defend another, which is legal. Or let's say you have a situation where you have a police officer and he's on patrol. You know, he's in uniform, he's wearing a firearm, and of course he's got the bulletproof vest. And he goes to a call where there's a suspect that may be armed. A suspect that may be armed.
So he brings his
And
suitcase.
so he gets there, he gets out of the squad car, he's walking around, of course he's taking out his gun because he realizes he may be armed. And eventually he sees the suspect and the suspect reaches for his waist. Now, in that moment in time, that officer has to make a decision.
To suitcase or not to suitcase?
Am I going home with my family tonight? And I asked Dr. Werner about this Vaseline thing he's called fear response or fight or flight. You know, those decisions are made, it's instinctive. Based on your set of circumstances, she instinctively reacted to her unique set of circumstances to save her life or save herself from another one of these. I'm 63. I can't imagine.
You can't imagine.
That.
I'm 63
I can't imagine
years
that.
young.
He says that a lot, actually. You can't imagine.
Her father's not around.
That's in the song.
Her father's not around?
Whose? Hers. Oh yeah, that's right. He died.
I don't know what that has to.
I didn't talk about the case, was it? And if you remember, I'll get back to it. If you'll remember, that's what place here.
Good lord. Let's see. Where's my note? Okay, no.
Let's start with the witnesses. And then I'll talk about Sarah.
Let's start.
But the
witnesses.
first witness out of the box for the state, if you remember, was Juan Torres. the brother.
Yep.
Remember that? It was some time ago. That was been a while. Y'all taking notes. You may have to go back.
It's only 5 days ago.
Their first witness was a good witness for us.
Was it?
Their first witness in their prosecution of Sarah Boone for murder was a good witness for us. Remember Tony Henderson with the cross-examiner, Juan Torres. Asked him, what did you hear Sarah Boone say? Juan Torres, she was yelling, he's been choking me. He's been choking me. Mr. Henderson said, did that surprise you? Juan Torres said no.
Oh, this is good. This is a good argument. He's getting somewhere now.
The neighbors knew what was going on.
You stop staring at me, sir?
Pearl Walker came in here. 80-something years old. In a wheelchair. Kevin Beck called her up. She saw it. Is there any doubt?
Should have had Jules try to give me that
Is there any doubt?
court reporter's number.
I tell you why there's no doubt. In cross-examination, I got Dr. Warner to even admit it. Did you hear it? Yes? Okay, Mr. Old.
What are you?
She suffered from battery spouse syndrome. Wouldn't admit it on direct. Well, maybe. I don't really know. I hadn't had enough time to really see her.
God, he's like moving his arms around a bunch.
You hadn't seen pictures?
Good lord. Is he gonna
You
like
hadn't seen-
he's gonna
Did you
actually
I like
smack
it.
No, he's gonna smack that poor girl
No,
in the head.
I like the way he's animated. I think it's good. It's better than just like standing there monitoring.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, but
He's
it's
not
just
boring.
Like, he just
That's all right.
God,
Like he cares. Like he's like he's got some passion for what he's saying. I like it.
okay, yeah, I don't know. He's just worse than me on my prom date when I smacked her upside the head trying to put my arm around her.
Well, that's a shame that happened. But yeah, look, I appreciate that he's so invested in his argument and his client and the whole story. Like, I appreciate that even though he is beaten down at this point and exhausted, that he's giving it everything. He really is. So yeah, I'll give him that. You smacked your prom date on her head? Did I hear you correctly, Dali?
Accidentally, God.
Oh, accidentally.
Trying to make a move.
John Gary, it's not hearsay, because you were just talking about did he's been choking me get in as an excited utterance. Well, no, because it was the words of the defendant. So people can talk about the words of the defendant because she is the, what they call it? The party opponent or whatever. So people can say what she said.
Yeah.
They just can't say what other people said. So there you go.
Intentional.
Yes, not
And
intentional.
one time, earlier this month, one time, and she's going to start testifying about stuff she's never said before until she showed up in court. About, well, based on what she told me, I don't think she was in imminent fear. Come on. This is a courtroom. This is a courtroom. Good thing y'all are here. Well, thank you. But it gets even worse than that. It
Oh
gets
my
even worse than that
God!
here in this courtroom.
We are
The state attorney
boonerisering.
referred to these pictures. And I was going to rise up and show these pictures to you.
Overruled. You may proceed.
Ha ha ha
And I was going to rise
ha.
up and show these
Suffer.
pictures to you.
Suffer. State overruled. And FMM 2.0 is here, gifting 10 Excited Utterance memberships. And that means that we have the Boone Lisa is going to be in the apartment. Yes. Hello, Dina. How are you? How are you, my sweet? You've been a bit quiet lately. I think you must have been super busy at work and things. It's so good to have you in chat. It is so good to have you in chat. Lovely to see you. Did you enjoy the trial? Did you get to watch the trial, Dina? Thank you for all of the gifts. Welcome, new members. If there are new members come in. Thank you so much for the gifts. Yes. Do you want to read them out, Dali, whilst I
Yes. Vince Clotho, Fiery Red. MJ. Lawyer Ron Coleman was gifted a membership. Ooh.
Ron got one.
Troy Martin Lucia. Ahren Atrens. Tarin Dusty. PD Broker. Joanna. We're gifted memberships.
Lovely. Oh, that's awesome. Dina says, from what I watched, I did enjoy it, especially trying to determine if the court reporter was wearing shoes each day or not. I definitely saw some sort of footwear on her, but depends. Like, she was wearing stockings, like pantyhose, so not sure if that was shoes. Hello, I need to step out for a bit. Of course, done. No, you may not leave. You may never leave. Thank you so much, Dina. I appreciate you so much.
Well, yeah, we're going to do that. They put her on trial for murder. But what did they say? And I got to turn to this. Make sure I get this exactly like they said it. So I took a bunch of notes. Let me make sure I got this quote. Can't even find it. But it was something to the effect, maybe George Torres is the battered spouse. Can you believe it? Can you believe that?
Yes. I mean, no.
Now you know why we're here.
I like that.
Now you know why we're here.
I mean, it's the best he can do.
Little boys learn early on that girls are different.
Excuse me, sir.
You do not put your hands
This is
on a
not.
girl.
This is 2024.
You can't wrestle with them. You can't punch them. You can't kick them. You can't treat women that way.
Pause.
Okay. So, yeah. Okay, you said what you were going to say.
You can't, but you can use their bathroom.
True.
And
All
you
right,
can
so-
actually wrestle with them. And you can play sports with them, sir. There's an entire debate going on between parties in our country.
Yeah.
Have you checked the newspaper
this
anymore?
argument. Okay, what do people think about this? Like, he's saying that as a man, you grow up knowing you can't hit a woman, right?
Well.
So, is that still true? Is it still true? I'll tell you one thing. When this part happened, I was watching this, and my daughter was watching with me. And she said, hey, that's not true. You can't hit anybody. Like, that's sexist. And she's 12, right? She goes, oh, that's really sexist. You can't say that. You're supposed to. Yeah, I know. Well, she's 12. What do you expect? They're all liberal when they're 12. And I said, well, darling, the thing about it is, it might sound like a bit of an old-fashioned argument, but there's also a biological thing to it, because men are generally bigger than women, right? So it comes down to the fact that where this came from was also that men grow larger than women, and so when there is a physical imbalance, there is this idea that you can't hit someone smaller than you. So if someone is a lot smaller than you, then there's an imbalance there. And she said, oh, okay, I can see that. So you can't hit someone smaller than you. Like, you can't hit anyone really, but yeah, smaller than you is an imbalance. So But saying it in the terms of hitting a female, I think has now become something you can't really say. I don't know. What do you guys think? I don't hit anyone bigger than me. Yeah, that's a good point, Candace. Sarah was bigger. Yeah, and I didn't get into that with my daughter. By contrast, he just tried to give Sarah a pass, and Sarah was bigger than George. She was really 140 at the time of the arrest. Yeah, see, she says she was 100 pounds, which I really don't think that's quite right. I don't think 140, but I don't think she was the same size as George. We've evolved into more of an anti-violence society in general.
I think
really in America.
I think we were. I think we've kind of reversed that trend in the last 15 years, 20 years.
Yeah.
But for a while, that's the way it was going.
Yeah. She looked demure, very demure in those videos.
Sensual.
Small, I would say. Like, she's
Luscious.
way smaller than she is now. Way smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think this argument sounds a bit old-fashioned, but if you talk about the time when George was growing up, for sure, I think he was brought up at a time, because he was 40-something, 42, I think. I think for sure he grew up at a time when he was probably taught to not hit girls. I think that's fair. But now it just doesn't sound so good. It's in her booking paperwork. What is?
Her weight supposedly is 140, but I really...
What? Really?
Yeah.
No way. Ha! There you go.
When you become adults, I don't care what she does to you. I don't care what she says to you. If she gets in your face, whatever she does, you do not have a right to hit a woman. No, sir.
Wow.
What has the state attorney tried to do?
Objection, upper argument.
Sustained.
What has they done?
Objection.
What evidence have they tried to put on?
Overruled.
Good.
What evidence have they
Good.
tried to paint
Just ignore
Sarah?
him.
Sarah's.
I like that.
What evidence? Controlled and manipulated were the words they used. You know, this ain't the 1900s, this is 2024.
Yeah. Okay, it is actually.
Yeah, so men can be girls, girls can be boys.
It's all these text messages. Why is that relevant?
Jorge should have manned
What are
up.
they trying to claim?
Man lit it up.
She provoked his violence?
Ooh.
She provoked his violence.
Ooh.
Isn't that what they've done here in this trial?
Upper argument.
She provoked his violence. Oh dear. Oh dear.
Let me get back on this.
Nasty
Abraham Marino.
argument.
Oh, I agree, Candace.
I don't know if you remember him. Abraham Marino changed his statement.
Yes, he
They
did.
took a statement from Abraham Marino in which Sarah stated, I don't know if you remember, but it was when the police were all there. I think they got the tape out, and some neighbors were coming around, and there were 2 or 3 neighbors sitting around. He said, Sarah came out and stated it was an accident. Okay? Well, then, it was an accident. And this, Abraham Marino knew George Torres from Philly. Okay? They were friends. They would talk either at the complex or if Marino went to Holiday's Hardware or Ace Hardware, what it's called. The state attorney notifies.
Good. I'm going to object to reading even things that are not evidence.
Approach.
Oh my God.
Dear me. This is embarrassing. Come on, just let him have his closing argument, for crying out loud. I think he's at the pound the table part of that one saying, yeah. Don't know if she changed it or just forgot to mention it. Either way, she was saying the same thing to cops and in the interrogation, so I wouldn't doubt she said it to Abraham too. What about the teaching him a lesson? When did she say teaching him a lesson? I never heard her say teaching him a lesson.
I think it was in a text.
Oh. But Moreno definitely changed his testimony.
Oh, no,
question.
that's what she said to him, supposedly.
Yeah, no, well, that's just what he said. She said, but he changed it because back at in the original recorded interview, that's not what he said.
Yeah.
And then he went and said it on the stand. So he added that 4.5 years later.
Correct.
It's more than different phrasing, Marsha. It's a whole extra bit of wording. And it's pretty nasty, teaching him a lesson. You pretty sure she said that on the stand? Ooh, I don't know. Make him squirm a little or whatever. That's what she said. Yeah, I'm surprised no one played Moreno interview or body cam in court. It was audio. Yeah, because we've played it on this channel. It's not even long. It's like 8 minutes. Yeah, she said make him squirm. That's different. Make him squirm is not the same as teach him a lesson. And you need to get these things right. Like, if you're quoting her, it's important to get these things right. Why can't they play the audio interviews in court? Why not? Like, if they're available for people like us to hear,
I think it would be hearsay because they're not.
Why?
Experts can do reports. I'm not sure I forget the actual rule.
It's a police interview.
But they can't do like police interviews of other people normally.
Sure, I've heard them before.
They have to be a witness on the stand.
Yeah, he was on the stand though.
They're probably they were ruled inadmissible. Only use them for impeachment, yeah.
You may proceed.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
4.5 years,
They could have brought him in
Moreno
impeachment.
says, all I heard Sarah saying that afternoon was it was an accident. And then he came in here today, or this week, and said, no, she said I was teaching him a lesson, things got out of hand, and then I fell asleep. 4.5 years later, he's friends with Torres.
See, their cross-examination of him
Now,
wasn't
I want to
great.
talk
It
to you
wasn't good
about
enough.
the two boys that live right next door. You remember Vincent Battaglia and Brandon Motes. Remember those guys? And you remember it came out in testimony, this event happened on February 23rd of 2020. But it came out in the testimony that Sarah had said, George Torres, the night before, February 22nd of 2020, grabbed me by my hair and pulled me down these stairs in my apartment from top to bottom, which is consistent with what they were saying happened, remember? But they got the dates wrong. And remember Mr. Henderson called Deputy Copsell, or Detective Copsell up in our case, and she had to say, yeah, I didn't take their two statements until the 27th, February the 27th, remember? So they're remembering back, and they both had similar stories. Of course, they had time to talk by then, the 27th. I think the only recorded interviews they got the night of this event, February 23rd, was from Sarah Boone and her ex-husband, Brian Boone, right? So they came back following up on the 27th. That's when they got a statement from Brandon Motes and Vincent Battaglia. And at that time, they said, yeah, we heard that sound. You remember Sarah testifying? No, that was the night before. I complained about that, and I think one of them had testified. Yes, she had said something about being drugged down the night before. It may have been, can't remember now who it was, one of them. And, it looked like that there may be some implication that Sarah got him in the suitcase and pushed him down the stairs. But I think we didn't have anything more than that. Remember? And then this photograph, which we introduced, which shows the bottom of the stairs. As you can see, there's Lucas's bookshelf right here. This is where Sarah Boone stored Lucas's stuff. And you can see it's not disturbed at all.
The ha-ha Perry Mason moment.
Anyway, I want to get back to Sarah. I want to talk a little bit about that. But let me talk a little bit about the law. Unjustifiable use of force is legal and lawful if you reasonably believe, I think we all probably already understand it by now. You reasonably believe it was necessary to prevent imminent threat to harm. The law is crucial, ensuring that individuals can safeguard themselves in potentially dangerous situations. By acknowledging you have a right to defend yourself when you have a reasonable belief that force is necessary to prevent an attack. Okay? What did Mr. Henderson say in jury selection? You don't have to wait. You do not have to wait. If you're facing, in your mind, a reasonable imminent threat, you don't have to wait. Let's talk about Sarah Boone and this unconventional form of physical restraint to block the attack of George Torres.
Oh, it's not that unconventional. I put people in suitcases
What did
all
she
the
say?
time.
It's all there. Now, you got to think about that. You got to think about what was going on. You got to think about the trauma she was undergoing. You got to think about they both been drinking, and you got to think about the fact that it was all fun and games for a while. And I think the biggest thing to know is that George Torres chose to get into this. He's a grown man. That is his choice. She didn't force him in at gunpoint to get into that suitcase.
Grown man.
He voluntarily got into that suitcase
Arguable.
because they were drunk and being silly and stupid and playing hide and seek. Which I guess when you get so drunk, that seemed like a good thing. Zipped him up, they're laughing, carrying on. And as you know, Sarah likes to videotape a lot. And I know you've seen some of these videos and you're wondering why.
She likes to
But I
video
think
things a
the
lot.
evidence shows that when George is being videotaped, he's not going to do anything. If you think about that, when George is being videotaped, that's like her power. You know, Dr. Harper said that Sarah's words are her power. Sarah's words are her
It
power.
was a great day.
Physically, she's no match for George. Physically, she's no match. But that's her power, it's her words. When she gets a chance, to have some control, that's what she does. And she videotapes, because she knows when she's videotaping, she can tell it like it is. I can tell you what I know. A couple of these videos you've seen, she's telling them like it is. But she's got that video camera on, and George knows. He's being videoed.
This is why I videotaped Dali.
Well, he loses it.
That's
A
true.
little bit. Right again. And of course, we got the TV.
Show him the truth.
But they're kidding around, playing around. Then
Happens a lot.
Sarah realizes, okay, this is my chance to say something to him. So she sits down, she turns on the phone, and you've seen the tape. You've seen the tape. For everything you've done to me, are the first words out of Sarah's mouth.
For everything you've done to me.
There's a lot packed into those words.
What did he do? What did he just say?
What?
Did he just say there's a lot packed into those words? Wait.
Go back.
You've done everything you've done to me are the first words out of Sarah's mouth when the video begins. There's a lot packed into those words.
Bullshit.
Oh, legend! Oh my god. Let's unpack it now.
There's a lot packed into those words.
Only Sarah had unpacked it that night.
There's so many jokes. And the mother couldn't contain herself, but there's a lot packed into those words.
Think about that.
Oh dear.
For everything you've done to me.
Unpack them words.
This is how it feels when you choke me. Now that's in direct response and the result of the abuse that she has suffered at the hands of George Torres. She wants him, for that moment, to feel how she feels. She wants, for that moment, to feel, for him to feel how she feels. How uncomfortable, lack of control that she feels when George is violent with her. Just for a moment, she won't give it to him. And if you can imagine,
I should go in the room.
Approach.
Yeah, was there an objection?
What objection to what? Objection
I think
to
from the
what?
evidence, we can determine she was crazy. She was crazy. And I don't know if, of course, it's a syndrome, but she felt like she couldn't do without it.
Oh, golden
And
rule. Okay.
let's say she videotapes it,
Thank you, Justin.
and then it's turned off. And there's a 9-minute gap, 11-minute gap, whatever it is. I said 11, they're saying 9, but I think if you count 2 of the other minutes. But there's 9 minutes that we don't have video. But what did Sarah say? Now, if you remember when you listen on my video, George is talking in a normal voice. He's not stressed. Of course, if you're talking, you can breathe. She had said she had some anger. And of course, she doesn't realize the situation, that it's going to end the way it ends. So she has no appreciation of that. It's a canvas. It's all she knows, an old canvas suitcase that she's got some, the 2 zippers removed or spread out a little bit. So she thinks he's not being serious. But eventually he gets angry. She gets angry, he gets angry. He says words to her, and then his hand starts to come out of the suitcase. She also said his tone changed. And I know everybody's got a cadence with their spouse or boyfriend, girlfriend, but
I keep
you know what
mine
I'm
in
talking about.
line.
We've got a way of talking to people. We've got a way, your wife, your husband, you know each other. You know when they come in from work, what kind of mood they're in. Just by couple of things, the way you just sense it, right? Well, especially somebody as hypervigilant as Sarah and as hypervigilant as a battered spouse woman would realize that he can flip the switch at any time. When I get out of here, I'm going to end you. And he realizes he's getting out. He got his hand out. At that moment in time, in Sarah's mind, that's an imminent threat. So she's got a justifiable right to use force. What did she do? She went over there and grabbed it. She lifted it up. She tried to get his hand back in, remember? She tried to get his hand to go back in. Well, he go back in, so her son's back was 3 feet away. Where the police found it the next morning. Same spot. No attempts to hide. No attempts to delete phone. No attempts to tamper with evidence. Nothing. In the same spot as it was. She picks up the bat. She pokes him hard. Trying to get him to stop trying to get out. And eventually he does. And you've seen the blunt force injuries. And you saw some of the circular injuries where you can tell there's a poking. I think it's right around here. And she poked him several times. You remember
We all like a good
said, I
poking.
think, maybe 5, 6, or 7 times. She pokes him. And he's got some scratches. I don't know if they'll let you look at it, but on the back of that suitcase, it's got some bars, some metal bars that are inside the lining. There's some lining.
Yeah, Justin, I'm not there with the whole hand
when you-
coming out thing.
She testified. You heard what she said, that she was justified. That's uncontroverted testimony. Now,
What? What's
let's talk
uncontroverted?
about the jury instruction. You heard what she said. That's uncontroverted testimony.
No.
She testified. You heard what she said, that she was justified. That's uncontroverted testimony. Now, let's talk about the jury instructions just for a minute. I want to talk about reason with doubt for a minute.
How do you mean it's uncontroverted?
Can't find the thing, but
Just because she
I've got
said
one- I've
it.
got one of it.
Hey, I'm not on board with that.
Let me find it. You're all looking.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, no, I was expecting them,
think it's on page
like,
15 or 22.
honestly, I was expecting them to come up, like, when I was going into this trial and I knew they were going to claim battered spouse and self-defense, I thought they were going to come in with some sort of death threat prior to him going into the suitcase. That's what I thought. I thought that all of this stuff about her saying that it was a good day, etc., that was just stuff she was making up because she thought that was what the cops wanted to hear. She was just trying to cooperate. She was shaken up, blah, 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 blah. She was going to say that was all a big lie because she was in shock. But actually, prior to the suitcase thing, there was a big argument and he threatened her life. I thought that was going to be the story. But no, that wasn't the story. The story was the whole hand coming out thing, and I don't buy it. Nope.
We're going to talk about reasonable doubt in a minute, but if you look at those bottom three short paragraphs, it is the evidence introduced in this trial, and it alone that you're to look for the evidence, or look for that proof. A reasonable doubt as to the guilt of the defendant may arise from the evidence itself, a conflict in the evidence, or lack of evidence. But here's the main thing. Obviously, I represent her, and I'm trying my best to show you honestly and fairly the doubt.
You are trying.
And 5 reasonable doubts, 17 reasonable doubts, 25 reasonable doubts. You have to have one reasonable doubt. I'm trying to show you throughout the evidence that each one of you can have a different reasonable doubt. Difference, but one reasonable doubt about the state's case, and your verdict is not guilty, according to law. Proof beyond a reasonable doubt does not mean proof beyond all doubt. A reasonable doubt is not a mere possible doubt, speculative doubt, or imaginary or forced doubt. Such a doubt must not influence you to return a verdict of not guilty if you have an abiding conviction of guilt. And this is a deeply held belief. Reasonable doubt is the highest standard we recognize in litigation. Car wreck or something like that is preponderance of the evidence standard, 51%, you're entitled. Abiding conviction, that's a deeply held belief that you must have if you're thinking about something. That's a firm belief. That's a level of certainty that you would have. That's what you got to have as a juror. I've got to be certain of her guilt. If, on the other hand, if after carefully considering, comparing, and weighing all the evidence, which we want you to do, there is not an abiding conviction of guilt, I'm not certain. I'm not certain of her guilt. Or if you have a conviction, I think there's some evidence of guilt, but it is one that is not stable, one which wavers and vacillates. One which wavers and vacillates.
Oh, does he
Then
know
the charge
Good
is
Pie
not proved
Tucker?
beyond a reasonable doubt, and you should find the defendant not guilty because the doubt is reasonable. You understand that? You've got to be certain of guilt. That's the high standard we recognize. If you've got some evidence of guilt, so okay, there's some evidence for conviction, but it's not stable. It wavers and vacillates. Then under our system, you've got a reasonable doubt, and you've got the power and authority and the obligation under the law, if that's the way you feel, to vote that way. Later in the instruction, it goes on. It's up to you to decide what evidence is reliable. You should use your common sense in deciding which is the best evidence and which evidence should not be relied upon in considering your verdict. You may find some of the evidence not reliable or less reliable than other evidence. You may rely on your own conclusion about the credibility of a witness. That is totally the province of the jury to decide that. A jury may believe or disbelieve any or all the part of the evidence of the testimony of any witness. I want to show you this before I forget it. But Dr. Warner said, this is their expert again. He
Their
testified that
expert.
Sarah Boone suffers from battered style syndrome. Battered women's experiences affect her perception of imminent danger. Those past experiences with George Torres, and there's a bunch, affect their perception. Remember Dr. Michael Brandon talked about perception of imminent danger. Victims of repeat violence may fear death in situations others would not. The reason Sarah experiences all this, the reason she was feeling the way she was feeling, that imminent threat of danger from George, was because of George Torres. George Torres is responsible for her mental state because of the way he has violently treated her. She reacted to his attempts to get out because of the way he treated her and the way she knows what is he going to do if he gets out of the suitcase? She knows. The second video is played. She's flipped it back upside right. You hear him, it's 22 seconds. He says, Sarah, she's not going to open that suitcase. She's not going to open that suitcase. He's already threatened her. She used the bat to get him to stop trying to get out of it. Why would she do that? Why would she do that? I know what he's going to do. I know what he's going to do to me. I know him like I know him more than he knows himself. I know what he's going to do to me. You don't have to wait. That was justifiable. Now, you got to understand this. She intentionally used the bat to defend herself. She intentionally didn't unzip it to defend herself. Both of those are lawful under our law. She went upstairs. The dogs were upstairs. At some point, she called her husband, her ex-husband, Brian Boone. We know that many times she testified, or somebody in court said, she would often flee to her ex-husband's house sometimes. I believe that testimony came out from either Sarah or somebody. That sometimes she would flee, or sometimes she would flee to upstairs. One of those two. But the dogs were up there. She made a phone call. At some point, she fell asleep, passed out, fell asleep. We don't know. They had 2 big bottles of wine. Right? That was unintentional. That was unintentional. His death was unintentional. You remember when
Not.
she was in the interrogation room? You remember that? Now, I don't know if we did a good job of this, but it came out that she got arrested. You remember the one time when she got the black eye? She got arrested for strangulation. And you remember that? It was, they ended up over there by the dryer, and he was banging her back of her head on the floor that had very little carpet on it. And she ended up getting her arms out, and then she grabbed his neck. And she eventually got him off of her, and that's when he got up and stomped her in the eye. Remember? Well, the police came for that event, and they took statement, and Sarah was honest with the officers about what all, and they arrested her. You remember? Remember that? They arrested her.
Sarah Boone
Why?
needed a lawyer.
And she said, why? I was fighting back. You remember that? Why? I was fighting back. So from that point on, she didn't trust law enforcement.
Who does?
The video that they showed a while ago about George,
Hang on
that
a
was
minute.
about dropping the case.
Dude.
Where she was
Dude,
defending
she
herself.
trusted them enough to blab for hours. So, kind of don't buy that one. Why did she talk for hours and hours and hours to the motherfuckers? Like, that was dumb. If she didn't trust him, why didn't she just shut up?
And fighting back. I want to talk about this investigation by law enforcement. Now, she didn't know the law. She's not a lawyer.
No.
She gets up the next morning. Brian's calling. Sarah's got to pick up Lucas at 3. Brian's calling. Eventually she walks down. She's looking for George. Where's George? He's quiet down there. Then she looks in the bathroom. She looks out. He's smoking a cigarette. He's on the computer. She sees the suitcase. And you can imagine.
Objection, open roll.
Sustained.
She sees him in a suitcase. She panics. What does she do? What she do? She tries to get her fiance out of the suitcase. They're engaged to be married. She's not trying
I
to
didn't
kill
know
him.
they were engaged.
They're engaged to be married. She gets him out. She tries to do, he's purple. She tries her best to do CPR. She doesn't, you heard her, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know, call Brian. That's her safety valve. That's all she's got. Brian eventually says, just come over. She calls again in 2 minutes. I'm on the way. He gets there. You got to call 911. They have told her before. Call 911. She calls 911. She tries to do CPR again. Is she busy trying to hide evidence? She busy trying to hide evidence? She busy trying to hide the back? No, she's trying to save his life. If she can. So the police get there. She knows if she told them she fought back, she's going to be arrested. That's what happened before. What happened before? Like George just said on the video, she'd never been arrested before. Before that time, she was charged with that with George.
Thank God there's no gun in this
She
house.
lies. She's scared. She's scared. She doesn't know what to do. So she lies. She makes a decision to lie. Don't trust law enforcement. She doesn't know the law. She doesn't call a lawyer. She talked to Officer Rodriguez was the first.
Oh, Laura, you're going to miss out.
Came up here first. The first one that arrived. When all came, talks to her. There's a report statement there where she
Your
doesn't
neighbor's
tell
in
the
the
whole story.
drawer.
She lies. And then the detectives eventually get there and get her in the squad car. You hear that audio. I think it was played. She lies again.
See you later.
Then the next day, she goes down to the sheriff's department. Now, if they would have told her, hey, ma'am, I'm going to arrest you, and she gets a lawyer to go down there to make a statement, and the lawyer would advise her.
Objection. Facts on evidence.
Sustained.
Move to strike.
Stricken. The jury will pay no mention or give any weight to that statement.
She's not a lawyer. She didn't have a lawyer present when she made this statement. She didn't know the law. She didn't know she was justified in defending herself the way she did in this dysfunctional, toxic, abusive relationship.
I missed it too. There's been too many beautiful waterfall.
I don't know if you remember, it was a 2-hour video, but there were some things she said, you know, not intentional. And eventually, she wanted the detective, it was Detective Lowen, the male detective. And she said, I swear to you on my son's life, it was not intentional. What she was talking about was that George passed, was that George died. That was not intentional. She thought he was fine in there. Would he sober up? We've learned from their history.
You'll be
When Sarah
fine.
gets drunk, she calls for help. When George gets drunk, he beats Sarah. That's their pattern. How many times do we see Sarah call the law?
Tons.
That's their pattern. Sarah told her, I didn't know, I think she said, I didn't know something like this could happen. I've never done it before. And Detective Lowen said, well, what did you expect was going to happen? I've got a daughter that she was about 18 or 19, and she got a grandmother's hand-me-down pickup truck. It was an older truck, but she didn't have it long, and she was gassing it up, but she didn't put any oil in it. And eventually, it burnt the motor. And you don't know what you don't know. I hadn't done a good job of explaining, hey, you got to put oil in it too. Sarah Boone
John
didn't
Gary,
know
that makes
he could
sense.
die in there. It's an old beat-up canvas suitcase that she left a gap in. And as naive as that sounds, she didn't appreciate the danger. I mean, is that the way you want to kill somebody? Is that the way you're going to do it? She had Lucas to take care of. Am I going to go to prison doing it like this? No intent to hide the gun.
Well, I mean, you're assuming she's being
think the evidence is
logical at the
clear.
time, though.
That's how this happened. I don't want to belabor the point.
Which she didn't
We want
seem
show
to be
you.
acting too logically right then. So
Quickly show you the injury.
that doesn't really hold up.
Sarah Boone got stabbed. Think about that.
Sarah Boone
Stabbed
needed a
with steak
doctor.
knife. You know, and she stayed with him. She stayed with him. Poked between the eyes with a cooking rod. Stalked in the eye.
She needed an ice pack.
Who does that?
I don't know what she needed there, just a band-aid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The law empowers an individual to defend their life and safety when faced with a threat and to prevent an attack. That's what Sarah Boone did.
Does everyone like our Boona
That's what Sarah Boone
Lisa?
did.
That's by Bob Masavo, by the way.
Come on. Scroll, scroll,
Scroll, scroll, scroll.
Scroll, scroll, scroll. Keep going. Scroll, scroll.
Scroll, scroll.
Need to add David's head on him for this.
Yeah. Scroll,
I think it's
scroll.
important to understand Sarah had to be the parent a lot of times. It was her place. She had that $1,000 a month from the divorce settlement coming in. She had the car. She had the phone. She had the keys. She had to be the parent in a lot of ways.
Oh, Justin, just because he's saying things
I want to talk a little bit about
that
Dr. Harper.
Cacciatore said, it doesn't
remember-
matter. Cacciatore
Dr.
can't.
Harper is from Okaloosa County, which is
do
up
that.
in the Panhandle, close to where we're from. And she's the doctor that treated Sarah from early on. Remember, this happened in 2020. I think she first saw Sarah Boone shortly thereafter.
She certainly
And over
acted
the-
like
over
his
the
parent.
4.5 years, saw her 9 times, and did all the testing for post-traumatic stress. Of course, she
Maybe
has
he needed a
experience
damn
from
parent. He's
veterans, and
not-
she's testified that she's
Doesn't
now
really
just traveling around the state.
behave like a
testifying
grown
as
up.
Forensic
I mean, that's why Hella's with me.
psychologist. But
I'm not with you. Stop that.
With me
you know,
streaming.
she talked about how important it was to develop trust with the patient over a course of time. It's just going to take time when you have somebody suffering that kind of trauma and that kind of damaged psyche. It's going to take some time to get them where they can trust you and really tell you and talk to you and tell you what's going on with them. You know, she talked about, you know, that Sarah uses her words for power. I think her testimony, I don't think, but I think the
Yes,
evidence
I am
supports that her
adorably
testimony was credible.
Objection.
The evidence supports that her testimony was
Objection
credible.
is sustained.
I can't get my person. What? The evidence supports that her testimony was credible because of the time that she spent, because of the number of tests that she did, that she diagnosed her with post-traumatic stress disorder, alcohol use disorder, anxiety disorder, and battered spouse syndrome. Dr. Warner confirmed that. And, you know, Dr. Michael Brandon, the first witness, he was brought in as a subject matter expert. So he hadn't treated Sarah. He was just
Subject
testifying
matter
about
jurisdiction.
the condition. He's been doing it a long time. He's an expert at it. And that's to advise you to try to understand what's going on.
That's true, Marsha.
And as crazy as it sounds, in this syndrome, they try to protect the abuser. They're in love with them. They try to protect them. I don't know if you remember that there was a time where
That's why I'm so
Sarah
loyal to
Boone had a
Hella.
conversation with one of the neighbors, and they talked about something. She said, "Did you hear anything yet last night?" Remember, she said, "Shh, it's okay."
You abuse me.
Both George and Sarah lied to the police. They lied to medical people. I don't know if it's shame, but it just comes with the syndrome that you stay trapped in it. I think another big, if you'll think about this, when Sarah gets beaten by George, she calls the police. When Sarah gets beaten by George, she calls the police. And a lot of times she just wants him out. Just get him out.
Just not this time.
Get him dilute. She doesn't want him to get in trouble. She just wants him out. There never was a report of George calling the police on Sarah. She wasn't
Hello.
physically abusing him.
Mwah.
State
Bye.
is trying to present evidence that she emotionally abused him.
Catch you
Sustained.
later, love.
Stricken. Members of the jury will pay no attention to that comment. Give it no weight whatsoever.
I believe the evidence that's been presented by the state is an attempt to show that Sarah mentally or emotionally abused George Torres. Again, she's not charged with that. She's not perfect. Some of that is
Yeah. I'll say she's not.
No,
Then
I object. She is perfect, Owens.
She is a little
Really?
angel.
Come on now. Why are you underestimating her? Come on, don't undersell your client. She's perfect in every
in a
way.
situation, you do become numb and hardened, I think, over time.
Rawr.
That's a coping mechanism. It's a day-to-day thing, some good days, some, you know. But the homicide detectives, I don't know if you saw that 2-hour video. At some point in the 2-hour video, they started talking about some of the violence. And they go, we know. They had already checked with neighbors or whoever. They knew. The neighbors knew. Police officers knew who responded. Torres' family knew. They all knew about the abuse.
Just like Lucifer.
Dr. Harper testified that abused women act differently when they perceive a threat. I think Sarah Boone was loyal to her fault to George, even through all the abuse.
Oh, you poor man.
Judge, I want to make a comment about a couple of things that were said by the prosecutor in opening statement.
You may proceed.
Okay.
Okay.
The prosecutor in opening statement, when he was talking about George Torres passing away, and started talking about Sarah Boone, and his quote was, because I wrote it down, George, in Sarah Boone's mind, George Torres deserved it. George Torres deserved it. That's the position they're taking.
What?
He deserved to die. She loved the man. She wasn't trying to kill him. He also
That
commented
was
about...
weird, wasn't it, Justin?
Yes.
It was weird that he asked permission. I don't know if that's what you're referring to, but I think so. I've never seen a defense attorney ask the judge if it's okay to refer to something that the prosecutor said in opening statement. Maybe it's because he doesn't know the court and the judge's ways. And also, like, because of the fact that those objections happened early on in the closing arguments, and that really threw him off. Maybe Owen's just feeling like, hang on, maybe the rules are different here. Maybe I just need to watch myself before I start going down a certain line. But then those were all overruled, so yeah, sure. Yeah, he was trying to pre-stop an objection. Yes, I think he was trying to pre-stop an objection, but it seemed weird. You're right, Justin. It did. Yeah, there is literally a video of her saying, "I don't love you, I don't like you." I know. But there's not a video of her saying, "You don't deserve to live." Not that I know of. I didn't see any. Oh, yeah. See, they're smiling. They're allowed to smile. You wouldn't think they'd be smiling after the morning. There are texts. But what did the text say that, though? Sorry, I listened to that part on the plane. Shelby sighting, everybody. Oh, God, don't stick your finger in your ear, Sarah. Ugh.
Prosecutor said in opening about the violence, the violent episodes. It's a bunch of violent nonsense. Was his statement to you in opening statement. All this here, the photographs, is a bunch of violent nonsense. You'll have to make your mind up what it is. There were a couple of exhibits that I introduced late, and they were no contact provisions. Were there a court order from a judge, not only a verbal order, but it was reduced to writing. So there was a court order for George Torres not to have any contact with Sarah Boone. Okay. Court system got involved. They would have no contact with George Torres. Now, I need to talk a little bit about that. And they talked about coercion, coercive control, power and control, power and control. We know about his abuse. We know he destroyed the home, the TV. We know about his jealousy. You know, some of the things he said to her. We know about how he treated her dogs. Nicely when he was sober, but at times he abused the dogs or threatened to do so. If you think about power and control, when you're controlling a person.
Threatening dogs is not
And I
on.
think she testified that he kind of smothered her, always around her. Part of his fear was her realizing that she had enough and to leave it for good. That she would get the strength over time if she had enough time away from him where she wasn't in control of it and he
Who
wasn't in
said
control of
that,
it.
beautiful waterfall?
Enough time away she would come to her senses and realize.
And I'm not doubting you, beautiful waterfall. It's just that there's some people in the courtroom who are just making shit up. That's all. And I'm not doubting you. I really trust you. It's just that I know that there are people in that courtroom who are just making shit up. Like completely fabricating crap. So that is all I'm going to say on that one. But yeah, just wondering who your source is. You don't have to say if you don't want.
I saw something about that. I don't know how true it was, but
yeah,
I did see that.
Yeah, Joel from SDS was sitting right behind her. He saw it happen. I don't trust him.
Yeah, but
She could do better.
Kitty.
Judge has been given court orders all week.
I'm not saying he made that up, but I
I
just
did
don't
stop
trust
George
him.
Torres. George Torres knew
Very
he was going to lose
biased.
control. If she had a bunch of time away from him, she might move on. He was willing to violate a court order to maintain control. That's George Torres. I want to show a couple of videos. You know, I'll say something to you. Show me who's just going to happen. If we could dim the light. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you understand? As of this
Owens?
moment, and until I can get you out, get the fuck out of here. Or get the, I dare you.
Did you see his
Look,
foot?
look at it.
Owens, buddy.
Wait, get away from me. Get away from me. Get away from me. I'm gonna scream
Why
bloody
is he
murder.
playing this?
I'm gonna scream bloody murder.
Did he switch sides?
Did you see him flip the switch? In that instance? Where he lost it? Even though the video was going. Show the next one.
I guess, because he lunched out,
I broke it good. Die TV.
Die, TV.
Die TV.
Take your swing.
Take a swing TV. And bad TV. They wanted Brian to buy him a new TV, right, Half-Irish?
And Sarah Boone, I've gotten to know.
Objection. Proper argument.
Sustained.
Sarah Boone is like any other citizen. Equal justice under the law. She's to be treated like any other citizen,
Like any other man.
fairly and impartially, based on the circumstances she was facing at the time of this tragedy. Based on the battered spouse instruction, which is a special instruction that's given when women have a heightened sense of fear and trauma, that you're utilized in applying her subjective standards to the reasonable standard of what a reasonable person would do under her circumstances, and using the force that she used to defend herself. I hope I hadn't missed anything. I tried my best.
That she did. I'll give you that.
He really did, but it
Sarah Boone
didn't
fought back and
work.
survived. We ask that you do justice in this case and find her not guilty because the doubt is reasonable. I've tried to show you where the doubt was. I trust your judgment. We spent a long time picking the jury, 4 days. We trust you. We
I
appreciate your
tried.
service and your obligation.
I'm
to do your
trying.
duty.
I'm trying.
You have the power and authority to right this wrong. That's what we're asking you to do. And give Sarah Boone some hope for a better life and freedom. Thank you.
No.
Thank you, sir. Any rebuttal?
Yes, sir.
You may proceed.
Oh, hey there.
Yeah. Okay, I just gotta say before we move on, he does deserve a medal for his work. He really tried hard.
Yeah.
He really, really tried hard, that poor man. And
his whole team.
And Cacciatore was an ass. Like, that was pricky. The way he kept objecting, that was bullshit. Like, come on. How many objections were there? There had to have been 10.
Yeah.
There had to be 10. That was ridiculous. That was ridiculous. And were any of them even sustained? Maybe 2?
2, probably.
Come
that was
on.
Jay, not Cacciatore.
Oh, was it? Sorry, they both look alike to me. They're both this discussing prosecutor white men. Like, come on. Yeah. So sorry. I feel like Cacciatore's closing was good. I'll give him that. But then he completely screwed it. They completely screwed it by just being assholes. I have a feeling, and I haven't watched this rebuttal at all, but I have a feeling that the rebuttal is what's going to seal it, though. So let's watch.
You should just swing that easel and just accidentally hit the prosecutor in the head.
Mm-hmm.
Aw.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Rebuttal closing way better than his opening.
Shelby just made him his bitch. Pick up that cord. Hand that cord to me, Daddy.
It wouldn't be hard to
Ladies
do
and
better
gentlemen,
than his opening. His opening was garbage.
George Torres is dead because the defendant believed he deserved to be zipped shut in a suitcase so that she could make him feel how she felt when he cheated on her, when he choked her, and to hold him there as a captive audience, according to her testimony. Now he has to listen to me. Well, right out of the gate, there are credibility issues. Cheating to me means viewing pornography. Well, we saw cheating really means women. And a heated conversation on June 14th about these women in Facebook.
Yeah, his
That's what leads to the arrest on June 15th.
Pause.
He's out whoring, Candy Crush, all the bizarre things that you see in her phone. He uses the legal system as a weapon at times.
What going on? He's got Candy Crush on his tie.
Even David thinks his tie is idiotic.
Okay, David has worn his bowling ball Jodi Arias tie
yeah, 3-hole wonder
court.
tie. Yes.
Yes.
Hey, I gave him that tie for Christmas.
I know.
I was very proud of it. I don't know what I'm going to have to get him this year, but I'm going to have to up the game.
Okay. That's just hideous.
There's no denying that they are engaging in violent behavior, and it is over nonsense. It is smashing TVs. They call the police, and then they're standing there looking bewildered about what to do and who to say, and laughing and joking. Ladies and gentlemen, the courtroom is a place for justice, not a suitcase. The reason we have a jury system originally started with the idea that the king, the crown in England, shouldn't be able to go and incarcerate citizens on his whim. So it developed into a system where citizens would have to say, yes, you can take our fellow citizen.
Yep.
But the opposite is also true. A citizen cannot take another citizen's life because he or she feels like it. That likewise requires a jury to decide that it was objectively reasonable for a person of ordinary prudence and caution. Like Mr. Cacciatore argued earlier, battered spouse syndrome is not a license to kill. Past grievances, even being stabbed in the leg, so on and so forth, do not give her the license to kill. There are still laws in place about when and how this can be done in a justifiable manner. I want to talk about the most important jury instruction in this case that has not been discussed very well or thoroughly. Excuse me. However, the use of deadly force is not justified if you find that Sarah Boone used force to initially provoke the threatened use of force against herself. And we'll stop at that comment. The facts of the case that came from her own mouth, if she is to be believed, and we will explore thoroughly why you should disregard every bit of her testimony, from court to the detectives, to the 911 operator, to the doctors. Her testimony, if it is to be believed, the most favorable light that she has presented of herself, is that at the end of a Sunday fun day, where we are drinking, we're outside by the dartboard, we're doing puzzles, we're doing arts and crafts.
Turned out it
and there
wasn't so
finally comes a
fun
point in
in the
time where we're gonna play hide and seek. And he says, tag, you're it. Even though she's it, she goes upstairs, hides in the shower, eventually gets tired of being there, it's cold, so on and so forth, and she comes back downstairs. And as she comes back downstairs, she can see Mr. Torres fiddling to place himself inside the suitcase to try and hide for this game. And the lid's not closed, it's flapping.
Oh
And
dear.
out of jest,
He's not
out of
fiddling.
levity, undisputed according to her testimony, she
not
comes
Nick.
over there and zips it shut. Whether it's 100% or enough for 2 fingers to get out, that is something that you decide as the jury. But there came a point in time where the fun and games was over. And Mr. Torres told her that. Babe, I can't breathe. Sarah, babe, let me out. This is all on video. We don't have to imagine this. This is all on video, 1062. At that point in time, she is using force against him that is not justified. She is the initial provocateur. She is the aggressor under the law. And what level of force is it? I can't breathe. Not let go of my hand, not get your hands off me. I can't breathe. This is no different than 2 people, maybe they're buddies at the bar, similar to an example given by Mr. Owen, who are wrestling, and one has another one in a headlock. And there comes a point in time where the person on the receiving end of the headlock says, that's enough, I'm tapping. George Torres was tapping, and she ignored it. And she was kind enough to tell you why. Out of anger, which translates to hatred, ill will, spite, just like that in jury instruction for a second-degree murder. She told you exactly why. She got angry. Him saying, I can't breathe, babe, was what triggered her. Not a fear of imminent harm. Those are her own words. That is the law. These are the 2 paragraphs that solve this equation without getting up on a big whiteboard in college that's 30 feet long, 15 feet high, and a ladder, and somebody's scribbling Latin words and Greek letters for months and months to solve this huge, complicated equation. The equation is solved in 2 paragraphs. She is the initial aggressor. He is saying, I can't breathe. It is no different than a naked chokehold that she does not let go of. And she told you it's because I want him to listen to me. This is my bully pulpit. This is how he made me feel in the past. She doesn't describe it as teaching him a lesson, but that's exactly what she says. I want him to feel like I felt in the past. I want to tell him things. Ladies and gentlemen, we can play semantical games, but that is teaching him a lesson. Therefore, we have to look at the other 2 paragraphs. Because right now, plain as day, the use of deadly force is not justified if you find that Sarah Boone used force to initially provoke the threatened use of force against herself. And what force are we talking about? Well, the threat of force that she tells you she was facing was him fighting for survival. Him sticking his fingers out of the suitcase. Him sticking his hand out. That is the threat of force, coupled with, I'm going to end you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, she is the initial provocateur. She is the one using deadly force against him. If I have somebody in a rear naked chokehold, they are entitled to use deadly force against me to break that chokehold, at least until we're separated. He had every right to say what he said. He had every right to exist and stick his hand out and try and survive to breathe another day. However, the use of force is not justified if you find that Sarah Boone used the force to initially provoke the threatened use of force against herself, unless she does one of 2 things. And she did neither. Not even close. The threat of force asserted towards the defendant was so great that she reasonably believed that she was in imminent danger of death or great bodily harm. All right, let's give her absolutely every benefit of the doubt, which you should. This is a criminal prosecution. The state of Florida has alleged she committed murder. You need to do everything you can to look for reasonable doubt.
100% Candace.
But reasonable doubt's not imaginary doubt, forced doubt, speculative doubt. So accepting that all of their past history, accepting the doctor's testimony and the limitations on what they reviewed compared to what we reviewed. We did a much more thorough review of the relationship than any of the doctors did in this case. So let's give her that first clause. Because of their past relationship, with George now fighting for his right to exist and saying that he will end her if he gets out, we'll give her that. But just like Mr. Cacciatore mentioned earlier, lawyers' words mean things to us, and they mean things to everybody, but really to us. Or an and. There's an and. Had exhausted every reasonable means to escape the danger other than using deadly force on George Torres. She did not use every reasonable means to escape the danger that now, after provoking him, that he would present to her, according to her. She didn't pick up her cell phone and start walking. Call 911. She didn't do anything other than, if you believe that is why she called Brian Boone, made a phone call to Brian Boone, and unfortunately, because of past history, he just ignored her drunken phone call. She did not exhaust every reasonable means to escape this danger that she created. She started it. She created this. Other than using the deadly force on George Torres. Now, this is a weird situation. This is not a rear naked chokehold. This is a suitcase, or as Mr. Cacciatore said, a box, or actually more aptly described it as a coffin. And when you secure somebody into a box or a coffin, you can still exert that deadly force on them from a distance. I'll give you a quick example from a couple of movies that I love. In 1977 in May, a movie came out, it's called Star Wars, they eventually called it Episode 4. In the first scene, there is this large imposing figure that wears black armor. He is a government agent and he is looking for some stolen classified documents. He picks a man up who he believes is responsible for this treachery and breaks his neck and chokes him to death when he doesn't tell him where the plans are. We all understand that. That is direct force we all understand. But what we need to understand is the force she's exerting from the couch. And then when she goes up to bed, she is still exerting that force on him. She set these implementations into motion and did not stop. So later in this movie that came out in 1977, another co-employee of this dark imposing figure, Vader, insults his religion. He does not go to HR.
What is
He takes
with
matters into
Americans?
his own hands and chokes this person from a distance. Ironically, while we're talking about force, it's the force. And then in the subsequent movie, he's like doing it from his office. He's killing his incompetent employees on different ships. Force, deadly force can be exerted from a distance in this situation. So whether she's on the couch or whether she turns in for bed, she is still using that deadly force on him. She has not exhausted every reasonable means.
Okay. What is with you people? Everything has to come back to movies. Hollywood. Friggin'
It's a
some
way to
sort
relate
of
to the jury.
pop culture reference.
Yeah, I mean,
Like-
everybody knows Star Trek. Jose Baez has used Casablanca in closing. A clip from
Dear
that. He used a
me.
clip in that in the Husel trial.
God.
And just played
It's
the
like,
movie clip.
oh, movies, now we're paying attention.
Yeah. Yeah, he's trying to be entertaining.
Yeah.
I personally kind of cringed there, but
It's cringe.
For
well, I mean, I'm an Aussie. I find it cringe.
I find it cringe
Like-
too. But for 99% of people, I think it was a great move for him.
Yeah, I know, Marsha. Americans love our movies, memes, and pop culture references.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Australians don't at all. It's just that
Now,
it's just not as big of a deal to us. It's just like, it's kind of a stereotypical thing. We look at Americans and we're less like, why are you guys so obsessed with this shit? Like, and then you go and like, it's a murder trial, and that's what you're talking about. Jungle Book, anyone?
that's
kind of different.
That's what love.
I know
okay.
about the reference, yeah. But that's literature, and like I mean, Rudyard Kipling.
The Frog in.
Rudyard Kipling was like a writer that we all learn about in school. Did you learn about Rudyard Kipling in school? I did. And yeah, he's since been quite cancelled. So, so that's different. That's something that you shouldn't necessarily bring up in a RICO trial in a something that has racially fueled, let's say, connotations.
To escape this danger. Do something. You started this. You put him in the position where he cannot breathe. She's required by law to do something about it. Not something, everything. There was no efforts in this case. None.
Oh, we don't even talk about
in good
them
faith,
either.
Sarah Boone withdrew from physical contact with George Torres and clearly indicated to George Torres
I should
that
show
she
you
wanted
what
to
just
withdraw
happened with them.
and stop the use of deadly force. But George Torres continued or resumed the threatened use of force. That did not happen. She never withdrew from physical contact. She is still, like Vader, choking him from the couch, choking him from
Like
bed.
Vader.
She never withdrew that force. Physical contact includes any restraint on George Torres' movements. She never indicated that she wanted to
Can't
withdraw.
wait. This guy should
Sarah,
use Battlestar
babe,
Galactica.
I can't breathe. All right, if I let you out, are you going to come out peacefully? since I started this. I'm the one that made you not be able to breathe. That didn't happen. So ladies and gentlemen, this entire analysis about deadly force starts and ends there. She was the provocateur. These are her obligations when she starts it. She put him in fear of death. He is literally telling her, I cannot breathe. A couple other things about the law. Second-degree murder does not require proof of intent to kill. Argument was made repeatedly that she didn't intend to kill him. That has never been the state's suggestion. Because why would we suggest we prove something that we don't have to? It's not her subjective belief. Well, Sarah Boone doesn't believe that this suitcase can kill him, even though he's repeatedly said, I can't breathe. It's a person of ordinary judgment who would know, is reasonably certain to kill or do serious bodily injury to another. A person of ordinary judgment who hears,
Can you pause?
I can't breathe, babe.
I do appreciate him using a topical reference, something that, you know, is current, hip with the times. I mean, sure, it might be about 50 years out of date, but okay. Sure.
I just, like, look at the students in the background. Like, they're not impressed.
Oh, God, they're on their phones. They're on TikTok right now.
Yeah. They're just like
swiping on Tinder or
what the hell
maybe
is this dude
Grindr.
talking about? Like, he's Delulu. Delulu. Anyway, Dali, you need to get to bed.
I do. Yeah,
See ya.
long day. All right, I'll
Thanks
be
for
in
being
chat.
here.
Yep.
Cool. Bye.
Toodles.
Toodles.
Sarah, and his voice gets weaker 9 minutes later. You're on notice. This is statutory notice. Done from ill will, hatred, spite, or evil intent. Her words speak for herself. This was not out of fear. This was out of hatred and anger. Born out of all those horrible things that has been done to her and done to him. Understand, we're not going to belabor the past. Is of such nature that the act itself indicates a difference in human life. I don't care that you're saying you can't breathe. Fuck you. That's my name. Don't wear it out. Fuck you.
Don't wear it out.
Second-degree murder, we do not have to prove the intent to kill. We have to, she intended the act. She intended the act of zipping him shut. She continued to intend that act when he said, I can't breathe. That act resulted in his death. That's a manslaughter, but then when you add in the hatred, ill will, spite, and the depraved mind, that's what makes it second-degree murder. And that 2-minute video is the textbook definition of depraved mind as we define it here in Florida.
Oh, well.
Voluntary intoxication is not a defense. You cannot feel sorry for her because they had 2 1.5-liter bottles of wine and then some from the leftovers from the day before. And quite frankly, she's blackout drunk. She's blackout drunk. She doesn't remember making the videos. She turns her phone over right to the deputy the next day because she doesn't know what's on it. She doesn't remember doing it.
Oops.
Another thing that we just haven't talked about much is her story. She can't be up in the shower hiding and taking a picture at 11:03 p.m., 9 minutes before the video. That portion of her story just doesn't add up. And what it shows is it's more like 20 minutes instead of 11 or 12 minutes that we know he's trapped in what turns out to be his coffin. Let's talk about her testimony at trial.
Really?
And
They
we'll
didn't
talk
buy a
about her
coffin for him?
A lot of her issues predated her relationship with Mr. Torres. So it's not attributable to the trauma from Mr. Torres with all the luggage
suppose.
she brought into the relationship.
It's good recycling.
And listen to the way she talks. It's not splitting the bills. It's helping without argument. It's not cleaning up and doing Sunday chores. It's cleaning up so we can relax. It's a reward. She talks about him like he's a child. I need to lead him to the next activity from one to the other. And then you saw all the videos, and I'm not going to belabor it, what that we showed in rebuttal, but the relationship and the power dynamics speak for itself. He was treated like the third dog. And it might very well have been a dog that bit and was violent, but he was treated like a dog. Why are you leaning against my door? Get out of here. Go downstairs. You're worthless. You're garbage. They showed the part of the video where he slaps the phone, but that's after 5 or 6 minutes of being berated and dehumanized in a way that nobody should be treated.
Kristen?
He just wanted to get in bed and lay down next to his fiance. Instead, get away from the side of my door, you useless dog. I thought it might be a good point in time to listen to the music. You know, when does Mr. Torres get to decide what to do? I mean, she paints this picture that he goes off and does all these things on his own, goes and buys wine when he's not supposed to, does all these things when he's not supposed to, but when does he get to do what he wants? Suitcase downstairs for a week so they can donate it. What was in their lives that was preventing them from getting that suitcase to the Goodwill or whatever? Neither one of them worked. What's going on? Lucas is over there on Mondays and Tuesdays. The story about the suitcase having already been down there is quite suspect, and we will get into that more. But again, it's not we went on a trip together, we had a great time. It's I quote unquote, I recently took him on a trip.
Oh, she took
Then it comes
him
down
on
to
a
the moment of
trip.
truth, which we've already gone over. And it's just quite frankly inconsistent because she doesn't, there's no explanation for the picture. Her explanation at trial when I brought it up to her was, I just don't remember. I don't remember this period in time from the picture at 11:03 to when I was supposed to be coming down the stairs. There's a major glitch in her matrix.
What?
She shakes the suitcase. Please stop doing this to me. And then his hand gets out. Now she's the point in time when she gets angry and doesn't do what the law requires
What's in
after
her matrix?
basically choking him with his coffin. Beats him into submission with the bat and turns it back over. For the first time ever at trial, she says, I'm going to fucking end you, is what he said. She never told that to even her doctors. We've heard the arguments why she didn't tell the truth to the police and all that. And there's a lot of truth into the argument that was made. There's a lot of truth. When the argument is made that she didn't understand self-defense, what that means, what it comes across as, she makes this story change as she learns about it.
Oh.
When we apply the jury instructions
Nasty.
to her statement, all 6 of them apply against her.
He's making up
Don't
the
belabor this since it was discussed
timeline.
earlier. But did the witness have an opportunity to see and know the things about which the witness testified? Even at trial, she admitted that she was intoxicated for the first time. She went back and forth with the police about whether or not she was intoxicated and her standard of drunkenness and whatnot, but she was so intoxicated that she still felt the effects of it at 1 PM the following day. The medical examiner told you that alcohol dissipates in the average person. Everybody's different, tolerance, all sorts of things come into play, but on average, 0.015 grams per deciliter will dissipate every hour. So you can do the math. 0.015 times 14 puts her at 2.5 times the legal limit. For those reasons alone, you should not believe anything she told you. You should not believe anything she told the police. You should not believe anything she told the doctors. She was at 2.5 times the legal limit. She has a gap in her memory that's unexplained when I brought up the photograph at 11:03. You can't have it both ways. I don't remember 11:03 to 11:12, but I was upstairs in the shower hiding. Does the witness seem to have an accurate memory? Well, this ties into what we're talking about. But again, there's a glitch in the matrix, 11:03 to 11:12. Her memory is not accurate. By her own admission, I don't remember. She tells the police when they show her the video, I don't remember that happening.
Okay,
Was
so
the
he's
witness
happy to
honest and
believe
straightforward
her
in-
when she says, I don't remember. He's happy to believe that part of her story, but don't believe anything else she said. Like, you don't believe anything she said at all, except that bit. I have a problem with people being like making generalizations like that. Like, you shouldn't believe anything she says. No one lies completely, ultimately, all the time. No one is capable of every single word that they say being a lie. That's not possible. All right. So the biggest liars tell some truths. I absolutely believe there are some truths that she said in her testimony. And if you're astute and you watch her, and I'm not talking about body language here, I'm talking about the way that some of her testimony ties in with other people's testimony. If you really pay attention, you can see that some of the things she says are true. Some of the things she says don't add up. So to make this generalization and say, just don't believe anything, that doesn't even serve him properly. I don't like generalizations. They piss me off.
Answering the attorney's questions. I submit when we got off script, and by we, I mean with both attorneys, she wasn't as honest and straightforward as when it was a very
she's not
directed and
credible. I get
smooth
that.
examination. I came out of the gate with something that was off script. Tell me about Pamela Erickson. Tell me about Christine. Tell me about Crystal. Because she's the one that said cheating to her meant pornography. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you know, she knew exactly who those people were, and that she believed that he was cheating on them with her. And apparently she is too, with some guy named Ben. That when I describe this as a violent, nonsensical relationship, that's exactly what it is. It's not to downplay the violence. She got stabbed. She had minor surgery. It got infected. Those injuries are real. But they just don't apply in this case. They just don't apply when you use that self-defense instruction when she's the aggressor, if it's to be believed.
Object.
Correction.
Objection. There you go. Yeah, half Irish. Generalizations, we get them a lot. And this is, I suppose this is a little bit like when people generalize about other people's opinions. So again, I was saying earlier that people pigeonhole others into camps and they go, oh, well, you have defended Sarah's stance and, well, you've defended Sarah in some ways by saying that perhaps she was overcharged. And this was before a lot of evidence came out. Or you've defended her in that you thought that she was not going to get a fair trial. At one point, I was absolutely sure she was not going to get a fair trial. That doesn't mean that I thought that she was justified in taking someone's life. So that was a generalization. So people would put me into a camp of people who defend murderers. Oh, you defend murderers. And therefore you're evil. Yeah, so a lot of generalizations happen because people like to sort of put others into boxes. And I mean, we do it too. We go, oh, you're one of those people who call everyone guilty, so you must be a wine mum. We do it too. I do it too. Oh, I shouldn't say we, because that's also a generalization. So it's something to be aware of, I guess. Something to be aware of.
Have any effect on this case? It has.
Oops. Marsha.
Let me say it loud and clear.
Yeah.
Bad spouse syndrome.
I think she had as close to a fair trial as it was possible to have. The only thing I really have a problem with was that the way the court ruled in regard to her, there not being a continuance when Owens came in and his team came in. There should have been a continuance at that point. This rush for the experts to have their depositions done, for Owens and his team to get across all the discovery, the fact that he was just so, unfortunately, unprepared, and he was as prepared as he could possibly be. He worked his butt off, right? But I think she got as fair of a trial as she could have gotten with this team in that period of time, but the court should have given them a continuance. He gave every other lawyer a continuance. He did not give that lawyer a continuance, and he was being pig-headed about it. Now, I have another thing that I don't know whether or not there's any timing issues to do with this, but have you guys seen the news that Kranig is now applying for a position with the Supreme Court of Florida? I don't know whether there was some deadline to do with that, but isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting that right now he is applying for a position on the Supreme Court? Now that his profile is all built up and everyone thinks he's so wonderful. I need to look into this more. But he was adamant it was going to happen now. That it was all going to be done within this 3-week period. He allowed 3 weeks for it. There was no continuances. None. Right? And if anything's an appellate point, it's that.
Does not have any effect on this case. It has no relationship to this case because she is the aggressor. She zipped him shut in the suitcase after he said, I couldn't breathe, she wouldn't let him out. Therefore, all of the instructions above that paragraph of however do not apply. They do not apply. Now, turning back to what I was saying, did the witness have some interest in how the case would be decided? Well, of course. 3 out of 4 panels that y'all came from indicated to the judge fear of punishment was more important than the fear of public speaking. It speaks for itself. She has an interest in the outcome of the case. Now let's talk about, does her testimony agree with the other evidence in the case? You do not have to accept this story. Let's pretend, as you should, because all 6 of these things, we haven't even gotten to the inconsistent statements. Let's pretend her testimony doesn't exist, and you just have to look at the circumstances. The testimony from the defendant is George Torres' head is here. Look, he's standing at the knee. We've been sitting a long time tonight. His head is here. His butt is kind of down here. His feet are here. And his hands and his knees are up here. He's in the fetal position, if we remember right. The hematoma on his head is on the left side. The bruises, the deep bruises on his back, are on his left side.
Sir, ow!
You hear that? That's solid.
How disrespectful to the
She put those
coffin.
marks on him when he was in there. The evidence doesn't support it. You can conclude she used this bat when he was outside the suitcase.
Oh, can you?
You don't have to believe her when she said they were playing hide and seek. You don't have to believe her because she doesn't know the rules. She came downstairs, saw what she had done, and had all the opportunity in the world to clean up whatever mess may have been at the bottom of the stairs. But ladies and gentlemen, physics doesn't lie. She can't expect you to believe her testimony about the loud boom being the day before compared to her 2 neighbors who weren't drinking, who have no interest in the outcome of the case, who suffer from none of the infirmities of her testimony. She suffers from all 6 infirmities. When her neighbors say there was a loud boom that night, there was a loud boom that night.
No.
Did it shake the wall they shared in common? It shook the wall that they shared in common. Did she have any injuries consistent with being dragged up and down the stairs the night before? No. You saw the pictures the CSI took. You don't have to accept her story about hide and seek.
You don't have to accept their story either that it happened that night.
Made that loud boom. It takes
They were
energy to make a
interviewed
loud boom.
days later.
Energy that could very well be in the form of somebody going down some of the stairs, all the stairs, in the suitcase, out of the suitcase. But that's what the evidence supports, is there was a loud boom that shook the walls and interrupted a FaceTime conversation that was so loud that the girlfriend on the other end heard it. Something loud happened. And then there was silence, according to the witnesses. And they can argue that Juan Torres' testimony was great for them. It's great for the state. She was screaming at him already at 7:30 p.m. She was already on her bully pulpit. And we know she doesn't need to put him into the coffin to get on her bully pulpit. There's video after video of her on her bully pulpit telling him how it's going to be, how you're going to live your life. Go take a walk. Do this. Do that. You don't have to accept anything she said. It's inconsistent that he received the hematoma to his head, his bloody mouth. How is his mouth getting bloodied inside the suitcase? That's protected from her and her bat. But that suitcase, a 100-pound drunk woman is not beating through the wood of that suitcase or whatever it is that's making that noise when it's thumped. Ladies and gentlemen, those injuries happen outside of the suitcase. Ladies and gentlemen, somebody or something went down those stairs. She has no injuries consistent with going down the stairs. He does. He has blunt force trauma all over him. You don't have to buy her story, and you shouldn't. The inconsistencies, I'm not going to belabor it. Your dinner is waiting in back. Let's just briefly talk about the experts, and we'll move on to the end. Dr. Brandon's absolutely fantastic. He explained everything that you all needed to know about battered spouse syndrome. And this isn't about whether one of them or both of them had battered spouse, because at the end of the day, she's the initial aggressor, and she had the duty to do the things that the law requires. But it does call into question the credibility of the past power dynamics of their relationship. Those videos speak for themselves. The officer in the last video asks him, dude, you're a guy. Why don't you do something about this woman, your wifey, who you don't want to rat on for beating you? It's like, man, I'm not a beefcake. I'm not going to rat her out. There's countless examples, if you apply Dr. Brandon's testimony to Juan Torres, that really shows you the power dynamics of the relationship. He was her violent pet. Dr. Harper, I don't find much quarrel with what she says about battered spouse syndrome, and nobody should. I mean, she's the expert. But she's not Ms. Boone's treating physician. She's not her treating psychologist. The way it was described in argument, and I believe from Dr. Brandon's testimony, was she's supposed to be a forensic detective. Get to the bottom of this. She's going to come in here at trial and tell you her opinion you should rely upon. With 9 visits, she never asked the defendant what it is the victim said that put you in imminent fear of death or great bodily harm. That's the crux of the matter, Doc. You're never going to ask her what it is he said or did for this grand jury instruction about threat of force or use of force? It's remarkable. And, she didn't review everything that was presented to you. At the end of the day, it's your opinion that matters about this relationship. And again, we agree with Dr. Werner. It doesn't matter. She had the duty to retreat. She had the duty to take the chokehold off. And if it was too dangerous for her to directly take the chokehold off, she had the duty to do something else, everything in her power to stop him from dying because she started it. She set it in motion. She used the force grip on him from a distance, the couch and from bed. It was her obligation to stop. She didn't. But Dr. Werner, she was called by the state of Florida after having evaluated and listened to the defendant give a similar story and concluded battered spouse doesn't apply. So she was never asked to delve any deeper into it. Given the information that she did have, the limited information, she agrees. Yes, Ms. Boone has battered spouse syndrome, but it doesn't apply to the case because she was the aggressor and she did not fulfill her obligations. And really just your gut common sense. Go back to jury selection. In jury selection, there was examples about bullies day after day doing something to somebody. And somebody raised their hand and said, don't they have to do something that day? Don't they have to do something that day? And he didn't. After he was put in fear of death and told her he can't breathe, the imminent threat of great bodily harm and death she is describing to you is him fighting for his life to escape. She did not fulfill her obligations. There's details that matter. Again, not to belabor it. I mean, the evidence in the body-worn camera and the 911 calls, it's not offered to prove the truth of the matter as who stated what. Who knows what happened between these two? You see them with the police. Can't believe anything they're saying. It's not offered to prove that she's a bad person. It's not offered to prove that Mr. Torres is a bad person. It's simply offered to call in question the reliability and credibility of what she said about the past. That's all that it's there for. But there are some nuggets and some Easter eggs. There was an argument made during closings that Mr. Torres knows not to do anything when being videotaped. Bizarrely, shortly thereafter, they showed a very edited clip of him attacking her and slapping the phone out of her hand. He knows he was being videotaped, and there was another video like it too. So to make the argument that he doesn't do anything, he's a good boy when he's being videotaped, it's belied by their own argument. They showed one of the videos. Learned helplessness. She seemed to control everything. I mean, his birth certificate, it gets torn up when he doesn't comply with her wishes. You'll see the rest of the text messages if you choose to delve into them. But I would suggest you don't have to, given the jury instruction about aggressor. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a long 2 weeks, and you are making a very, very important decision for Ms. Boone, and a very, very important decision for Mr. Torres and the state of Florida and his family. He's dead.
Yeah.
She killed him. She's admitting she killed him to have this affirmative defense if I was justified. It was not justified under our law. She does not get to decide that she has a license to kill because of her past grievances. The law requires her to stop using the force that she started applying to him.
The force.
She didn't withdraw. She didn't tell him he was withdrawing. She didn't use every means available to try and stop this from happening. She didn't. And you know what was in her heart. She tells you it's hatred, ill will, spite, and venom. This is not a self-defense case under the law. Go back and follow the law. You cannot feel sorry for her. You cannot feel sorry for him. You cannot feel angry at her. You cannot feel angry at him. It's maddening to see their relationship. It is maddening. Nobody would want this life for yourselves or your children. It is violent nonsense, but it does not affect what she did and what her duties were under the law that night. She wanted to punish him. She did, and then she left him there. And she had an obligation, if you even believe her story about the imminent threat for him fighting for his life, she had an obligation to do something about it and not just go upstairs and let him suffocate. Thank you.
Thank you both. Members of the jury, I have some additional instructions to read to you. You would be so kind to turn to page 21 of 22. Instruction 3.12, verdict. You may find the defendant guilty as charged or guilty of such lesser included crime as the evidence may justify or not guilty. If you return a verdict of guilty, it should be for the highest offense on the verdict form that has been proven beyond a reasonable doubt. If you find that no offense has been proven beyond a reasonable doubt, then, of course, your verdict must be not guilty. The verdict must be unanimous. That is, all of you must agree to the same verdict. Only one verdict may be returned as to the crime charged. The verdict must be in writing, and for your convenience,
Guys.
the necessary verdict form has been prepared for you.
Was there
It
any
is a-
lesser included on there or not? Do you guys know? Or should I wait? Should I listen to him speak and tell me, or do you know? Because otherwise I'm going to skip. There were. Oh, I'm gonna speed through to the verdict. Of course I will. But I just want to know that he reads the jury, fam. Okay.
It follows. If you're looking for it, you don't have it. I do. That's why we only have one. The verdict form reads, in the Circuit Court of the 9th Judicial Circuit in and for Orange County, Florida, case number 48-2020-CF-002603-O, State of Florida plaintiff versus Sarah Boone defendant. Verdict. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of murder in the second degree as charged in the information. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of the lesser included offense of manslaughter. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of the lesser included offense of culpable negligence. We, the jury, find the defendant not guilty. So say we all, dated at Orlando, Orange County, Florida, on this blank day of blank, 2024, signed, foreperson.
It's a form of lies.
Final instruction, members of the jury, page 22. Instruction 3.13, submitting case to jury. In just a few moments, you will be taken to the jury room by the court deputy.
Okay.
The first thing you should do is choose a foreperson who will preside over your deliberations. The foreperson should see to it that your discussions are carried on in an organized way and that everyone has a fair chance to be heard. It is the
I think there was drugs in their dinner. Yes, I think so. Yahoo! Okay, now, guys. Haha. I have a little surprise for you. But first, before we do verdict, everybody, I'm going to tell you that there's a really good reason to play this and win it. So play this and win it, and you're going to end up in the draw to win something. So do this, and you will end up in the finale draw at the end of the verdict. So, and this is actually all Boone questions, just general Boone questions. Okay, end up in the drawer, not the suitcase or the drawer. The drawer. Yeah, rigged, whatever, Justin. Just because you're salty and seething that you have not won one. But you can win it now if you are just positive about it. You don't want to end up in the drawer. Well. Hang on, I'm just going to share this tab instead. Yes, well, these things happen, don't they? These things happen. So, quick quiz. It's the final one of this series. Don't know if I'm going to do trivia again. We'll see. But I have a surprise after Scott. Yes, you're already in. You have won one, so you are in the final draw. But if you win again, you'll have a second entry in the final draw. So anyone who's won more than once has more than one entry. So I haven't forgotten you multiple winners. I have not forgotten you. And pretty soon I'm going to tell you what the prizes are. The winner gets a choice between two prizes. Depends which they like. Or if you don't like them, you can give them to somebody else.
In the land of Amber, where kangaroos roam, there's a lady.
Oh yeah! Let's do it, everybody. It's the Big Boone finale. Sarah's previous judge was Judge what? 1. Wooten, 2. Newman, 3. Kranick, or 4. God. Sarah's previous judge was Judge who? 1. Wooten, 2. Newman, 3. Kranick, or 4. God. Put your answers in chat, everybody. Let's go. Oh, God, that was loud. Sorry. That was loud. Amazing. Who's gonna get it? Who's gonna get it? Oh yeah! First Scott, wait, then Beautiful, then Marsha, then Eman, then Hotline Red, then Dali, and 5 others. Everybody knew this one. Maybe I made the other answers too easy. Oh well, never mind. Scott's in the lead so far. Where's my other thing? Where's my game music? Okay, one of Sarah's attorneys stated in their motion to withdraw, the best possible avenue is to have the defendant represent herself as no attorney can 1. Stand her, 2. Satisfy her, 3. Please her, or 4. Abide her. One of Sarah's attorneys stated in their motion to withdraw, the best possible avenue is to have the defendant represent herself as no attorney can 1. Stand her, 2. Satisfy her, 3. Please her, or 4. Abide her. It's a bit of a tricky one. Who knows their Sarah background? What a thing for an attorney to say. None of them are a good thing for an attorney to say, no. That's right. In the land down under. Oh, satisfy her. Wow, how do you guys know this stuff? Beautiful, waterfall, got it. And Scott, and then Marsha, then Eman, then Old Line Red, and then Half Irish. Sorry, Nam. Sorry. I thought some people would say please her or abide her, maybe. But yes, it was satisfy her. And that was Bankowitz, by the way. And he wasn't a bit salty at all, really. Because, yeah, she called him a dud. One of the prosecution team was 1. William J. 2. Shelby. 3. Michael Kranick. Or 4. Billy Lane. One of the prosecution team was 1. William J. 2. Shelby. 3. Michael Kranick. Or 4. Billy Lane. I have thoughts on this. Yeah, I have thoughts. Yeah, I would have said Michael Kranick. He wanted her convicted. Absolutely, he'd be on the prosecution if he could. Everybody got it. William J, beautiful. Marsha, Eman, Scott, Oline, Half Irish. I hope that I might fool some of you and get Billy Lane in there. We haven't talked about him for a long time. In fact, was he even in court? Was old Billy in court at all? Did anyone see him? Did anyone see Billy? The private dick? Billy was the dick. Indeed. Well done, everybody. Oh, hey, Gus. Where's Gus? Hey. The Torres brother who beat up George was 1. Moses, 2. 1. 3. Jose, or 4. Farrell. The Torres brother who beat up George was 1. Moses, 2. 1. 3. Jose, or 4. Farrell. Get your answers in chat. Everybody! Scott, beautiful, Dali, All Red, Half Irish, Marsha. Man, like, you guys have just been paying attention the entire time. I can't fool any of you. Well, we'll see about the last one, though. The bass brother. Cheaters. Ah, well. We'll see how we go with the last one. The last one always gets people. It was a big day for fashion for the state. What colour tie did Cacciatore have on? 1. Tan and maroon stripes. 2. Brown and white check. 3. black and white stripes, or 4 maroon. It was a big day for fashion for the state. What colour tie did Cacciatore have on? 1. Tan and maroon stripes. 2. Brown and white check. 3. Black and white stripe. 4. Maroon. Yes, 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 yes. Oh. No one got it. It was brown and white check, everybody. Boo. Yes, I will show you in a minute if you want. In fact, when I first wrote this one, I thought it was just brown and white stripe, and then I came back and double checked it, and it's brown. It was a check. It was a brown and white check. So yes, sorry guys, sorry. Not a scam. Well, at least no one got it, so it didn't throw anything out. Beautiful waterfall. Oh wow, beautiful waterfall. You know what? You know what this means? You know what this means? I can never, oh my God, I forgot English. Oh well. Scott, no, Scott did not beat you. Oh, Scott did beat you. Yes, sorry. Yes, Scott did beat you. Okay, now, guys, I'm going to show you something, and then we're going to do verdict, right? Now, I'm about to add an extra waterfall to this list, right? So what's about to happen, and I'm not going to press this yet. Now, you can see that I have everyone who's won in all of the games here. I have the Boone Elisa in the middle, and now I now have 4 waterfalls. 1, 2, 3, 4 waterfalls on here. Yeah, yep. I have 3 Marshes. I have 1 Laura. Now you have to be in chat to win this, right? Now, I'm gonna just go over whilst I'm doing this. I'm gonna go over and get the verdict ready. Hang on. You go over and get the verdict ready. 2 seconds. Just a minute. And whilst I'm doing that, I'm going to tell you what the prizes are, because we're going to spin the wheel after the verdict. Just a minute. Sorry. Sarah Boone, audio fixed, trial. Just a sec. Verdict. Okay, cool. All right. So, okay. Oops. Okay. So, the verdict. The ultimate winner chooses between either a guest spot on stream or a 45-minute design class with me. So you must be in chat to claim, right? So either you can come on the stream, or you can have, like, I'm a professional lecturer, design tutor. You can come into Zoom or something with me, and I will show you whatever you want to know. So I can take you into Canva, I can take you into Photoshop, I can take you into whatever it is you want to learn, and I will spend at least 45 minutes with you. Quality time with me, yeah, absolutely. And Dali can attest to you, I absolutely teach. I teach in a professional manner, and I can even, if I take you into Zoom, I can even record it for you as well. So people usually pay $110 an hour for my tuition. So if you want to do that, you can take that one, or if you prefer, you can come on stream. So if you want one of those prizes, you can have it, or if you would like to donate it to someone else who is on the wheel, who prefer it, then that's cool too. All right, so That is the prizes. Let's do verdict now.
Let's go ahead and bring in our jury. Everyone will remain seated.
Big not guilty coming. No, just after the verdict.
State, do you recognize our jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense, do you recognize our jury? Members of the jury, you may be seated. Thank you. Members of our jury, good evening. I understand that you've come to a verdict in this case.
Yes.
If you could please hand the verdict form to the deputy, please. Thanks, sir. Madam Clerk, if you could please publish the verdict.
I'll slow it down.
Orange County, Florida. Case number.
Okay, so wait, you're right. Does it go quickly, does it? All right. She's got like half a Coke Zero left. Coke no sugar.
2020 CL 2603. The state of Florida versus Sarah Boone. Verdict. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of murder in the second degree as charged in the information. So say we all, dated at Orlando, Orange County, Florida, on this 25th day of October 2024. The form has been signed by the foreperson.
Madam Clerk, please poll our jury.
Juror seat number 1, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes, it is.
Juror seat number 2, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes, it is.
Juror seat number 3, is this your true and correct verdict? Juror seat number 4, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror seat number 5, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror seat number 6, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes, ma'am.
Members of our jury, again, I want to thank you for your time, your sacrifice, and your attention in this matter. I know that we spent almost 2 weeks together, and it was not taken lightly, and I really appreciate the time and the effort and the sacrifice that you put into this case. I want to advise you now of your final instruction. Members, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to thank you for your time and your consideration in this case. I also
Wait, I want to go back to
I know that
the
we spent
poll.
almost 2 weeks.
Juror seat number 1, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes, it is.
Juror seat number 2, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes, it is.
Juror seat number 3, is this your true and correct verdict?
What? He didn't even wait. Did you hear 3? He's just a dick. He didn't even wait for her to finish calling him. He just went, yes, yes. Us?
Is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror seat number 5, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror seat number 6, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Members of our jury, again, I want to thank you for your time, your sacrifice, and your attention in this.
What time? They spent like 90 minutes. Not even that. They're like, okay, she guilty, let go. Come on, let go. Do you want to go get some drinks?
Matter. I know that we spent almost 2 weeks together, and it was not taken lightly, and I really appreciate the time and the effort and the sacrifice that you put into this case.
They do
I
sound
want to
horrible.
advise you now of your final instruction. Members, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to thank you for your time and your consideration in this case. I also wish to advise you of some very special privileges enjoyed by jurors.
Special privileges.
No juror can ever be required to talk about the discussions that occurred in the jury room except by court order. For many centuries, our society has relied upon juries for consideration of difficult cases.
Yeah.
We have recognized for hundreds of years that a jury's
Therapist.
deliberations, discussions, and votes
She's like, "Give me some
should
cheese."
remain their private affair as long as they wish it.
Yeah.
Therefore, the law gives you a unique privilege not to speak about the jury's work. Although you are at liberty to speak to anyone about your deliberations,
Has any of them spoken
you are
yet?
also at liberty to refuse to speak to anyone. A request to discuss either your verdict or your deliberations may come from those who are simply curious. from those who might seek to find fault with you, from the media, from the attorneys, or elsewhere. It will be up to you to decide whether to preserve your privacy as a juror. With that, members of the jury, again, I thank you for your service. I'm going to ask you return to the deliberation room. I'll be back there shortly with your jury certificates.
Right.
And thank you.
I got a certificate, everybody. Ooh. Yeah, I know they gave up 2 weeks, so I was being facetious, but I don't know, I can't stand quick verdicts. Like, they really annoy me. It's like, come on, like, talk about it at least. Like, if you guys are all already convinced, at least talk about what was the moment that pushed you beyond a reasonable doubt. What happened to make you believe beyond a reasonable doubt? If I were the jury foreperson, I would ask every one of them, at what moment was it that you decided that you were convinced beyond a reasonable doubt? And if any of them were like, oh, I know someone who is in a TV relationship and she just looks like she's lying. She just looks like she has evil eyes. Then I'd be like, okay. Maybe we should all talk some more. Like, yeah, I don't think I could live with myself knowing that one of the people was just convinced because of some crap. And yeah, like when it's only been 90 minutes and it's nighttime, also these nighttime ones where they just have dinner and then they're just like out of there by, that annoys me too, because it's kind of like, well, they've had this long day and then they get asked to stay at nighttime, and it's kind of this unwritten expectation that they're gonna come up with something tonight. Like, why else would they be staying tonight? You know, talk about how guilty she is. But what I just said, Justin. So if they do a poll around and they go, okay, so have you all decided? Actually, yes, I have decided. And then they go guilty, 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 guilty. If I were the foreperson, I would ask, okay, before we all just fill out the forms, what was it that made you decide that it was beyond a reasonable doubt for you? And if one of them or more were to say something really dumb, like she has evil eyes or some crap like that, then I'd want to be like, maybe we should all sleep on it, something like that. If that were me, because it's someone's life. It is someone's life. So yeah, and that's the thing. 6 for all, guilty done. But yeah, I just take it a bit more seriously than that. They may have done that while they were eating. Maybe. Anyway, guys, let's go. Ready? Are we ready? And let's get some music going. Ready for the spin? Hey! All line red! Is all line red here? Is she here? All line red. Speak now. Check. Is she here? You must be in chat to claim. So, guys, tag her. Is she here? Oh! Don't think so? Oh no! Go again till you win. Oh dear. All right. Hi, man. Yay! you go. There you go. There you go. E-man, you can choose. Do you want to come on stream or do you want to learn some Canva or Photoshop or just design in general, whatever you want? You can have whatever you choose. Up to you. Well done, E-man. Thank you for being here. And you did call the game gay. But you've become the ultimate winner. Congratulations. You snore, you lose. You snore, you lose. This is a worse injustice than what happened to Sarah. Yes. Well, you know what? You have been absolutely ardent in your conviction. That's actually a bad word. I was going to say conviction towards Sarah, but yeah, conviction's bad. You'll come on. Sweet. Awesome. That's so cool. I can't wait to have you on. Awesome. All right. Well, you need to DM me or something. Make sure that are you on X or Discord or something? Make sure that you message me and we'll work it out. We'll work it out. Maybe you could come on Hearsay or something like that. Whatever you want. Whatever you want. We'll talk about it. Yes, E-man's coming on. That's so cool. Wow. Okay. Yeah, we will need advance notice. Yes. You got lost in the Sarah sauce and irony, but it was a good ride. Yay. That was so fun, everyone. Thank you all for being with us for this. That was so good. Not a conviction in everyday life. You have unwavering faith towards something. Yes. Yay. That was great. Yippee. Okay. We'll go over to Sean's, I suppose. And then I'll also go over and see Andrea as well. Andrea has 100K now. Good for her. I am just so totally happy for her. She deserves every single subscriber. She's doing amazing work. Actually, is he still going? Is Sean still going right now? Oh, yes, he is. Yeah, he is. Yay. Thanks, Hella Gang. We love ya, E-man. We love ya. Alrighty, time for the song. And bye-bye, Sarah. Bye-bye, Sarah. We hope you have a good time in prison. We think you're probably gonna do fine in there. And unfortunately, the sentencing is December 7th or something, I think. So we'll be back for that and we'll play the song again then. But as for the leaving song, let's do that now.
Her name was Helen. She was an Aussie. She was a fake lawyer from the future. She got on YouTube and made some live streams. The co-host is Dali and she dances sometimes. The words are always so loud and because she's an 803.